And good evening. Today is April 15th. Right now it is 7:33, and I'm calling to order this evening's meeting of the Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission. For the benefit of those who have not participated in Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, our procedures are as follows. The Secretary will read the legal notice of the meeting as published in local newspapers. The applicant will be invited to come forward and present the case, explaining to the Commission and others present what is being requested of this property. Comments of town agencies will be read for each application if there are any. First, there'll be clarifying questions from the Commissioners, then there'll be an opportunity for clarifying questions from the audience. Next, we'll ask those who want to support the application to come forward. Second, we'll ask those opposing. As this is a public meeting and must be recorded, it will be necessary for speakers to identify themselves by stating their name and address before addressing the Commission. The applicant will then be free to leave or remain for the balance of the public hearing, the regular meeting during which the Commission will try to reach a decision on each application. Each applicant will be notified in writing as to the decision of the Commission and has a right to appeal to Superior Court if desires. Decisions of this meeting are available the day after the meeting by calling Planning and Zoning Office at 203-453-8039 after 9 a.m. I'm going to introduce the members of the Planning and Zoning Commission, then we'll seat them. We have George Underhill, Josh Hirschman, Walter Corbiere, Richard Hudson, Phil Johnson, Tom Costa, I'm Rich Meyer. We have Richard Wells, Frank DeAndrea, and tonight we're going to, Ray Bauer's absent, so we're going to seat one alternate, and Phil, that's your job tonight. Staff here tonight, we have George Crowell, we have Reggie Reed, we have Kevin McGee, and Lisa Brewer. Filming us tonight is Shannon Gale. Mr. Secretary, you're up.
Notice is hereby given that the Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission will hold a public hearing on April 15, 2015 at 7:30 p.m. at the Nathaniel B. Green Community Center, Mononkatuk Room, 2nd floor, 32 Church Street, Guilford, Connecticut, for the following purposes. Number 1, Lifelinks, 2785 Boston Post Road, map 83, lot 14, zone R7. Special permit construction of a residential facility and associated appurtenances to be maintained by nonprofit corporations. Section 273-44. 2, Mara Weissman, 117 Andrews Road, map 12, lot 76B, zone R5, coastal area management site plan. Add height and a 5-foot extension to stone wall within 100 feet of coastal resources. Request for exemption finding for work done on the wall, on Wall A, section 273-91. Consider adopting the Town of Guilford Community Coastal Resiliency Plan as an amendment to the Plan of Conservation and Development, third hearing. 4, Mark Minuet, 125 Pine Grove Road, map 86, lot 28, zone R5, construction of a garage with storage and office above, section 273-38A, receive and set public hearing of April 15th. Request to waive professionally prepared site plan. This item is rescheduled to May 6th. Copies of these applications are available for inspection at the Office of Planning and Zoning Commission, Town Hall South, 50 Boston Street, Guilford, Connecticut. At this hearing, persons may attend and be heard, and written communication will be received. Dated at Guilford, Connecticut, this 25th day of March 2015. Richard Meyer, Chairman.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Richard. All right, can I... Lifelinks, we're not gonna hear that.
I recommend you table that to May 20th.
So move.
Second. This is pending wetlands.
Right. All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Next up is Mara Weissman, 117 Andrews Road, map 12, lot 76B. Zone R5 coastal area management site plan, add height and 5-foot extension to stone wall within 100 foot of coastal resource. Request for exemption, finding for work done on Wall A.
Obey. Hi. Good evening. I'm John Bennett. I represent Mara Weissman, the city right over here in the road. I don't know if you've seen the email from the DEP, the Long Island Sound Program, that was forwarded to Mr. McGee about this circumstance. Very well. I'll just start off by saying we respectfully disagree with the findings there and the view taken there. And I say respectfully but I just think that they're wrong in this regard. The application that we've filed has to do with that stone wall. And I should have made more copies, but I'll share those three that I have. And we think that the stone wall is exempt under your regulations, specifically exempted by your regulations, and in fact by the statute. The statute allows you in your regulations to exempt certain activities along the coastal zone. The coastal site plan review requirements are contained in Connecticut General Statute Section 22A 109, and subsection B says the commission may by regulation exempt any or all of the following uses and lists them. Your regulation tracks nearly exactly with the exemptions that are contained in the statutes. And under 273-91B 5, you list your exemptions. And under D, it says construction of new or modification of existing on-premises structures, including fences, walls, underground utility connections, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, as will not substantially alter the natural character of coastal resources as defined in 22A 93-7. I assume you're all familiar with those or have had occasion to read them. They're
Mr. Chairman, would you like me to read in the letter so that you have some sort of context as to what these...
Would you allow him to read it?
Oh,
so
yeah,
we know?
no, that-
Please, go ahead.
Okay, so
Can I ask you, there were two.
Yeah, there's one, which one would you prefer me to read first? There's one from February 25th, and then there's one from April 2nd.
Perhaps in order.
Yeah, start from February and work to
All right,
today.
so the first one is dated February 25th, 2015. It's from John Goucher. It's to Kevin. Kevin, we have reviewed the above referenced proposal for consistency with the Connecticut Coastal Management Act, CCMA policies. Based on the information in the application, the constructed wall appears to meet the statutory definition of a shoreline flood and erosion control structure, which is any structure, the purpose of or effect of which is to control flooding or erosion from tidal, coastal, or navigable waters, and includes breakwaters, bulkheads, groin jetties, revamps, riprap seawalls, and the placement of concrete rock or other significant barriers to the flow or floodwaters or the movement of sediments along the shoreline. Section 22A-109C. Additionally, proposals for such structures are specifically not exempt from coastal site plan. Had the proposal been originally submitted prior to the construction for review by the Planning and Zoning Commission and referenced to this office as required in accordance with Connecticut General Statute Section 22A-109D, we would likely have recommended that the Commission deny the proposal due to its inconsistencies with the criteria in the CCMA by which such structures are permissible. Specifically, the Act states that structural solutions are permissible when necessary and unavoidable for the protection of infrastructural facilities, cemetery or burial grounds, water-dependent uses, or commercial and residential structures and substantial apparatuses which that...
Appurtenances.
Okay. Appurtenances? Appurtenances. Sounds good. That are attached or integral thereto. Construction as of January 1, 1995, and where there is no feasible, less environmentally damaging alternative, and where all reasonable mitigation measures and techniques have been provided to minimize adverse environmental impacts. Connecticut General Statute Section 22A-92B-2J. The application contains no explanation as to why the expansion of the wall is necessary and unavoidable, and it does not appear that such a convincing case could be made, in part because the cottage does not appear to be in jeopardy of being structurally undermined by erosion. Because the wall has been constructed without first having received a coastal site plan review approval, it represents a public nuisance in accordance with Connecticut General Statutes 22A-108, violations which state that any activity within the coastal boundary not exempt from coastal site plan review pursuant to subsection B of section 22A-109, which occurs without having received a lawful approval from the municipal board or commission under all of which of the applicable procedures and criteria listed in sections 22A-105 and 22A-106, or which violates the terms or conditions of such approval, shall be deemed a public nuisance. To remedy the public nuisance, the site of the violation should be restored as nearly as reasonably possible to its pre-violation condition. Thereafter, the property owner may submit an application for the coastal site plan review to the Planning and Zoning Commission for any proposal that is not exempt from the coastal site plan review. Let me know if you have any other questions or if you need any additional information. John Goucher. So then there was a letter on April 5th to Kevin. No, Kevin, when did Kevin write his letter? Is your letter before or after the April 5th letter?
Mine's after.
After, okay, yours is-
Mine's after the April 2nd. You want to start
All
the
right,
April
I'll read-
2nd one towards the bottom and work
Sure.
on it.
I'll read that. Do you want to read the letter, Kevin? Or I can read it, I don't mind.
You can keep going.
Okay, this is from John Goucher, sent Thursday, April 2nd, 2015, to Kevin McGee, subject 117 Andrews Road, Guilford. Kevin, I met with my supervisor and our director yesterday to discuss the subject wall. Consistent with the determinations made regarding similar structures proposed or constructed along Connecticut's shoreline, this office considers the wall or the increase in the height of the pre-existing wall base to meet the statutory definition of a shoreline flood and erosion control structure. As such, it would be permissible if it is necessary and unavoidable for the protection of the pre-1995 residential structure and where there is no feasible, less environmentally damaging alternative. We believe that it would be difficult to demonstrate that such structure meets the statutory criteria in Connecticut General Statute, Section 22A-92B2J. Noted above for several reasons. First, there does not appear to be a slope between the dwelling and the structure such that if erosion did occur, it would jeopardize the dwelling. Second, the owner's consultants have stated that there has been no erosion of the shoreline before or since the construction of the wall. Finally, increasing the elevation of the living scape above the predicted base flood elevation would represent a less environmentally damaging alternative to constructing a shoreline structure. And that's it. Now we're on to Kevin. Unless, Mr. Chairman, you want.
I think these all should get in before he...
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Shut my mouth.
Okay, continue on the same page here. Ask John if you're suggesting the wall should be removed due to there's less environmentally damaging alternatives. John replied back to me, Kevin, to clarify, we believe that in order to be consistent with the CCM, the Connecticut Coastal Management Act policies, the structure should be restored to near as to its pre-construction condition as possible, John. And then my letter here would be the next one in line, and then John's final note follows this one here. So my letter dated to the commission here on April 14th, 2015, to the Governor Planning and Zoning Commission from Kevin McGee, environmental planner, coastal area management review, Mara Weissman, 117 Andrews Road, Guilford, Connecticut, 06437, assessor's map 12, lot 76B. The applicant is looking for the after-the-fact approval for the expansion of a wall located on the boundary between FEMA flood zone VE elevation 13 and AE elevation 11. Walls located within the flood hazard zones are reviewed by the Connecticut Department of Environmental Protection, Connecticut DEP, to determine if the wall meets the statutory definition of shoreline protection, to determine if the wall meets the statutory of a shoreline flood and erosion control structure. A review of the application and site plan by John Goucher, analyst with the Connecticut DEP, on February 25th, 2015, noted that the wall meets the definition of the shoreline flood erosion control structure. Connecticut General Statutes for the Coastal Area Management, Section 22A-109, states the purpose of this section that the shoreline flood and erosion control structure means that any structure, the purpose or effect which is to control flooding or erosion from tidal, coastal, or navigable waters and include the breakwaters, bulkheads, groins, jetties, embankments, riprap, seawall, and the placement of concrete, rocks, and other significant barriers to the flow of floodwaters or movement of sediment along the shoreline. Structural solutions are permissible when necessary and unavoidable for the protection of infrastructural facilities, cemetery, burial grounds, water family uses, commercial and residential structures, substantial apparatus that are attached or integral thereto as constructed as of January 1st, 1995. And where there is no feasible, less damaging alternative, and where all reasonable mitigation measures and techniques have been provided to minimize adverse impacts, Connecticut General Statute 22A 92B2J. John Goucher's review noted that the application contains no explanation as to why the expansion of the wall is necessary and unavoidable, and it does not appear that such convincing case could be made in part because the cottage does not appear to be in jeopardy of being structurally undermined by erosion. A site review was conducted on March 31st, 2015, in which John Goucher reviewed the wall with Rob Sunickson and Mark Young of Waldo Associates, Attorney John Bennett, and myself. Following John's review, he discussed his observation with the supervisor and the director of the Long Island Sound Program. An email dated April 2nd, 2015 confirmed DEP's original review that the wall meets the requirements of a shoreline flood erosional structure. As such, it would be permissible, if necessary and unavoidable, for the protection of a pre-1995 residential structure, where there is no feasible, less environmentally damaging alternative. Connecticut DEP review of the site noted that it would be difficult to demonstrate that such structure meets the statutory requirements of Connecticut General Statute 22A 92B2J. Since John Goucher's February 25th, 2015 and April 2nd, 2015 review, no revisions have been made to the application to explain why the construction of the wall is necessary and unavoidable. It is important to note that since the wall has been constructed without having received a coastal site plan review approval, it represents a public nuisance in accordance with Connecticut General Statute Section 22A 108 violation, which states that municipalities shall have the authority to exercise all enforcement remedies legally available to them for the abatement of such nuisance, including but not limited to those under Section 8-12. After notifying the municipality in which the activity is located, the commissioner may order such a nuisance to be halted, abated, removed, or modified, and the site of the violation restored as nearly as reasonable as possible to its conditions prior to the violation. Based on my review of the application and site observations, the wall, if not intentionally installed as a shoreline flood and erosion control structure, the structure meets the effect of one defined by the regulations. The wall being constructed in a flood hazard area and flooding a beach creates a barrier to the flow of floodwaters and movement of sediment along the shoreline. Even though the applicant has indicated that no damage has been observed since the wall has been installed, the potential for damage does exist with major storms. Since it is determined that the wall meets the definition of shoreline erosion control structure, determination for the need to have a wall must be evaluated. The Shoreline Flood and Erosion Control Consistency Checklist provides a regulatory checklist for the determination of 7 criteria that all must be met for a shoreline erosion control structure to meet the requirements of the regulation. Up here, I can circulate that checklist to you guys. Point A in the checklist is shoreline flood and erosion control structures would protect a 1995 or older structure. There is clear demonstration of the need for erosion and flood protection, such as clear evidence of significant erosion or flooding. A qualified structure or use is clearly in danger from flooding or erosion. The proposed flood and erosion control structure would protect a water-dependent structure or use which must be located on or close to the waterfront within a coastal flood hazard area or prone to erosion. Affected infrastructures cannot be designed or relocated to remove it from flood-prone to erosion. A vulnerable pre-existing prior 1995 inhabited structure cannot be relocated away from flood-prone, erosion-prone areas and/or elevated to the Federal Emergency Management Agency standards. There's been a clear and compelling demonstration that non-structural alternatives such as vegetated stabilization, including examples of planting or vegetated berms or beach nourishment, are not possible. D, there's no feasible or less environmentally damaging alternatives to the proposed structure. E, the flood and erosion control structure proposed is minimum dimension necessary to protect the structure or use. Adverse impacts to the coastal resources have been minimized to the maximum extent practicable, and have been deemed acceptable through provisions of all reasonable mitigation measures and techniques. Based on the above criteria, the structure is unavoidable and necessary to protect water-dependent use and infrastructure inhabited structures of the date January 1st, 1995. From reviewing the documentation provided as part of the application and from the site observations, the wall does not meet all the regulatory requirements for shoreline flood and erosion control structures. Section B, there has been no documentation or visual evidence of significant erosion prior to the installation of the wall, and the pre-1995 inhabited structure can be elevated to the Federal Emergency Management Act standards. Section C, there has been no documentation provided that shows a clear and compelling demonstration that the non-structural alternatives such as vegetated stabilization, examples such as plantings and vegetated berms, or breach nourishment are not possible. Section D, there is no documentation provided to indicate that there is no feasible, less environmentally damaging alternative to the proposed structure. F, the adverse impacts have been minimized since the wall causes a conduit for erosion of the adjacent beach by forces of waves breaking against the wall during severe weather. Section G, there are other less environmentally damaging alternatives to the proposed structure, such as vegetated stabilization, and as noted in John Goucher's memo dated April 2nd, 2015, the wall structure is avoidable since inhabited structure has the ability to be elevated. I recommend to the Commission that 1, the applicant's request that the wall modification activity is exempt from CAM site plan review be denied, since the wall has been determined to meet the effects definition of the shoreline flood and erosion control structures. 2, the application for the added height and 5-foot extension to the existing wall should be denied, since it does not meet the criteria for necessary and unavoidable for the protection of a pre-1995 residential structure. There are alternatives to the construction of the wall which would be better to protect the house should it become necessary and unavoidable in the future. These options include elevating the house above the FEMA flood elevation and supplementing the sand with beach grass. 3, an order be issued to the property owner to have the additional height and length of the wall be removed since it meets the definition of a public nuisance in accordance with Connecticut General Statutes, Section 22A, 108A violation.
And there's one more response to this. This was from John Goucher, dated April 15th, today, to George. George, we have reviewed the Guilford staff report dated April 14th, 2015, prepared by the environmental planner, Kevin McGee, which, with particular attention paid to the Connecticut Coastal Management Act, CCMA, Connecticut General Statute Sections 22A-90 through 22A-112, inclusive policy references. We believe that the report accurately references and applies the relevant CCMA policies and comprehensively summarizes the facts for consideration. Accordingly, we concur with the staff's recommendation. Please let me know if you have any other questions or if you have any additional information. John Goucher.
Wow.
Counselor, just before you continue, give us a picture of nearly half of the wall. Can we just get a photograph of the two sections to the northwest? This just shows the part of the wall that's actually in front of the house.
I think these are in the...
Yeah, I don't think that we got to see
This,
those.
it actually does wrap around the corner here. You're
Correct.
seeing that.
Yeah,
And that's...
and then it gets farther along here. Gotcha. Thank you.
Is this all new, or is this?
No.
So what we're talking about is this section here?
You're talking about, you see that point? Yeah. That's existing wall, and it rises to there, to the previous. This is all previous.
So about how long is this distance?
Mr. Sonicson can perhaps tell us. Here it is. It's 34 feet.
Okay. Go ahead.
Thank you. First of all, and Mr. Sonicson will speak to this because he knows what he's talking about, as opposed to me, but we're not selling this as a shoreline erosion control structure. So the whole business about proving that it's a shoreline erosion control structure is not what we're about. It isn't, doesn't have that effect, and we didn't have that intention when the thing was put up. That wall's been there forever, apparently. I mean, probably as long as the cottage, nobody knows exactly. We were told the cottage has been there at least since the 30s. The point that we're trying to make here is there's an inconsistency with respect to the DEEP and the Long Island Sound Program. They can't very well, it seems to us, say that this is inconsistent with a policy under the Act, when the Act specifically allows an exemption for walls, as do your regulations. Furthermore, I think if you read the definition of shoreline erosion control structure, you'll forgive me, I know I have it here somewhere. It talks about things that are sticking out into the water primarily. First of all, the Commissioner of Environmental Protection under 22A 359A has jurisdiction to the high water line. Okay, so we believe he's out of his jurisdiction, but putting that aside, the definition under 22A 109 subsection 3 defines the structures, and you've heard it here already, as any structure, the purpose or the effect of which is to control flooding or erosion from tidal, coastal, or navigable waters, and includes breakwaters, which stick out into the water, bulkheads, groins, jetties, revetments, riprap, seawalls, and placement of concrete rock or other significant barriers to the flow of floodwaters or the movement of sediment along the shoreline. Mr. Sonicson will point out to you that that's not what this is not what this does. This is a wall that is part of the landscaping property and is exempt, we believe, under your regulations. Because, as I read already, your regulation says the construction of a new or modification of existing on-premises structures, including fences, walls, underground utilities. That's 27391B5D. Again, it can't very well be contrary to the policies of the Coastal Management Act when the Act itself and your regulations allow it. So we think that the recommendations of the Long Island Sound Program and with respect to this key are simply wrong in this context. You can't take a general policy, which is what's under 22A 92B 2D, or J rather, which has been cited here, and have a specific regulation or specific exemption, and simply knock out the exemption, the specific exemption, with the general. And that's our position. To say nothing of the issues of effect and so forth that you'll hear with regard to the engineering. Referring to Mr. Goucher's letter in this regard, his February 25th letter, he says that they would likely have recommended that the Commission deny the proposal due to its inconsistency with the criteria in the CCMA by which such structures are permissible. Well, that's, as I just said, there's a specific exemption. And I'd also like to highlight the point that this is a recommendation by the Long Island Sound Program. This is your decision. They don't have exclusive jurisdiction. I'm not sure they have any jurisdiction, given that their jurisdiction is water ward water ward of the shoreline. But fine, we can have the conversation. The
Counselor,
letter,
John Goucher and his staff do not understand how the Connecticut Coastal Management Act applies to seawalls.
I think that, again, with respect, I'm not denigrating anybody here, but I think that they'll...
Just their entire conclusion and analysis.
No, I mean denigrating anybody personally.
Oh, no, I mean just
Their
denigrating
conclusion,
their
I think their
analysis.
conclusion is simply wrong, and it may be based on a desire to expand the jurisdiction of the agency, or they feel it's their job to get into this, But I don't think that they have the jurisdiction, and I think they are ignoring the exemption. In fact, I think his letter begs the question when he goes on this business about it being a public nuisance. He quotes, "Any activity within the coastal boundary not exempt from coastal site plan review." That begs the question. This is exempt. Walls are exempt, unless they're sticking out there in the water, keeping the water from flowing back and forth, or the sediment, or encouraging sediment to be carried in any direction.
So
When
in
we-
terms of jurisdiction, we need not have actually asked,
No, you have to ask because the
The-
statute requires you to send the application out there.
but when they give us an opinion,
You
it's
don't
not
have to follow.
necessarily.
It's a recommendation.
It's just a
advice.
recommendation.
It's
But also,
advice.
they don't have jurisdiction. What do you mean by they don't have jurisdiction if it's a recommendation?
They don't have jurisdiction, the decision is yours. I think they don't have jurisdiction because the jurisdiction for coastal site plan, for any coastal matter, stops at the water line, the high water line for the DEP. But
Which
they
I-
get to make recommendations, and, we understand that. It's just that I think their recommendation is inconsistent and turns in on itself. For reason, I've met Mr. Goucher, he's a terrifically nice guy, we had a pleasant meeting,
You're a nice guy, too.
Well, thank you, you didn't have to say that, but,
Can-
I guess
yeah, can we have
step
Kevin
here and
respond to
clarify
that?
one thing here is that our regulations, and you're omitting one thing in our regulations here. We have a category which is exempt for walls. We also have a criteria which, separate from walls, discusses erosion and control structures separate from walls. So there are two different things in our regulations. A wall, which you have on your plan there, which is exempt, is adjacent, which was done at the same time, is adjacent to your driveway. This other structure, which you constructed
Or here.
along the beach, right, yep. This other structure, which you created along the beach, meets the requirements of the flood and erosion control structure because it prevents the flow of water up towards and within the flood hazard area, which I think is where DEP is calling within their jurisdiction.
yeah,
There's flood hazard areas.
well,
And flood hazard area, in this area, goes all the way up across the road and go full marsh area because that's an AE area.
well, I respectfully disagree, because it says in 22A, 359A, Commissioner of Environmental Protection shall regulate dredging and the erection of structures and the placement of fill and work incidental thereto in the tidal, coastal, and navigable waters of state waterward of the high tide line. And then it goes on to define high tide line as not a surge line. First of all, that's just one point. Second of all, you will agree with me, theirs is a advice situation. They don't have jurisdiction to make this decision, this commission does.
Right, and they have the expertise to review this, where this commission is made of a variety of different backgrounds and provides assistance to the town and to this commission highly.
That's a democracy.
Kevin, can you just explain the point that he made about the high tide not being the surge line in terms of jurisdiction? What does,
They have, for permitting wise,
yep,
permits come to us where we share a line. The permits, we have, DEP has up to the coastal elevation 4 on the plans.
okay,
And and also into tidal wetlands and stuff.
yep.
And we have from the low tide all the way up, so we have this interaction area there. But they are required by state statutes to provide a review of this, and if they see, in part of their review, if they see construction which is going to cause damage to their waters, which they're advising here, if they see this construction causing problems to the waters in the state of Connecticut, they're weighing in and saying it's not.
So you're saying that DEP doesn't necessarily have jurisdiction past the high tide line, but you have jurisdiction as, from the low tide. What is your jurisdiction?
Found, we have from the commission has it, from the,
So where is that in our statute, so we can just put it on the record?
It's not in your regulations. The statute, however, I can
Well,
continue to read it.
well, let me just find out what he's referring to as his jurisdiction.
so, sorry, it's very small a picture here.
analysis?
We have pretty much from the low water down here inward, the state has the jurisdiction line used to be the high tide line outward.
And what is that document that you're looking at?
This is the Office Line on Shallon Program CAM manual.
And
Which is handed out to all, to,
did you ever see that document?
I have.
Okay.
It was issued years and years ago, it's never been
And
updated.
what's your opinion of that document and his
He's
jurisdiction?
saying the same thing.
Yeah, but he's
Which
saying
is-
that he has jurisdiction over, the town, and our commission has jurisdiction over
Landward.
exactly.
Yeah,
Okay,
I'm not disputing that.
okay.
What I'm saying is that when you get a letter from the Office of Long Island Sound Program, it is not the word of God.
But we got a letter from our environmental planner.
And which quoted exactly what came from the Long Island Sound Program, if you'll forgive me.
Kevin, would you say that that letter that you did had any of your own opinions in that letter?
Yes.
And you went out to the property?
correct, yep.
I'm sure he shares the opinion. I'm not trying to suggest otherwise.
Okay.
I just happen to disagree with the issue of what this wall represents. I think it is exempt for the reasons I stated.
Sure, underneath, in our exemption thing, but you no longer believe that we don't have the jurisdiction to listen to...
Oh, I never
okay.
suggest that, and I never did.
Okay, great.
No,
So
no.
jurisdiction's not an issue here. The only issue is whether this is an exempt thing, or whether this is an exempt structure under 273-92, or 91, I'm sorry, B5D.
Right.
Okay, that's the only, that's
That
the
and
question.
the fact that it is not a shoreline and erosion control
Well, but
structure.
that's what our environmental planner is saying it is.
And I
And you disagree.
respectfully
Okay.
disagree. And I will now hand the floor to Mr. Sonicson, who will speak to some of the engineering part.
Great.
Please.
Thanks, John. Good evening. My name is Rob Sonicson. I'm principal of Walden Associates First Bookkeeping. These are our mailings.
Walden Associates also built this wall, correct?
No, we're not. We didn't design it or build it. We're working with the applicant on other matters related to the property. But when this issue came up, they asked us to become involved, so we did. We handed out the pictures, and a picture does, in my opinion, tell a lot here. And I go back to the definition again. And the definition is the purpose or effect is to control coastal flooding or erosion. This wall is 37 feet long. It stops by the corner of the house. And the extension beyond it is a wooden fence. The ground elevation at the end of the wall is the elevation of the yard. It's approximately 3 feet lower than the wall. Long Island Sound increases in elevation. Floodwaters start proceeding to the north. This wall doesn't stop any floodwater. The floodwater goes around the wall and impacts the property just as it would if the wall wasn't there. There's no increase in flooding. The purpose certainly wasn't to protect the building from flooding. It was a decorative landscape wall, and it ends. And any floodwater that would want to enter onto the property simply flows around the end of the wall, impacts the building, impacts the yard, impacts the driveway, exactly as it would have had the wall not been increased in height. So my professional opinion as a registered professional engineer is that the effect of this wall does not control coastal flooding in any way. Secondly, there hasn't ever been a record of any coastal erosion in the vicinity of this wall historically. This is a stable pocket beach. It has essentially the same configuration that it's had for years. It hasn't changed at all since the wall height has been increased because this wall was built completely above the sand level. So it's really the pre-existing wall that was there below the wall that was increased in height that had any impact on coastal erosion, because that's where the eroding sand would have been impacted by the wall. Simply raising the height of the wall has no impact on coastal erosion, hasn't had any impact on coastal erosion, can't have any impact on coastal erosion. There's a meeting that we had after our original application came in, and John Goucher's first email came through saying, "This is a coastal flood and erosion control structure. We think it should be, it's a public nuisance." And we said, "Well, we don't think so. We'd like you to come down and take a look at this wall, John." So we went down, we took a look at the wall, and we stood there and we said, "John, floodwaters are coming in. Where are they going to go?" Around the end of the wall onto the property, just like they would have if the wall hadn't been increased in height. Okay? What erosion has been caused by this wall or prevented by this wall? And he said, "I don't really see any, because the wall is above the elevation of the sandy beaches." So the question that I had that's never been addressed by the Office of Long Island Sound Program is, how is this wall a coastal flood and erosion control structure? The purpose of it wasn't to prevent flooding or coastal erosion, and the effect of it has no impact on coastal flooding or coastal erosion. That's the definition of a coastal flood and erosion control structure. In my professional opinion, this wall does not meet that definition. And at this point in time, Kevin's done, has put an effort into an explanation, which I don't agree with, of how it could control flooding. But the state has never said in any of their correspondence how this is deemed to be a coastal flood and erosion control structure. All they said was, well, we took a look at it, and our policy is that anything that's like this, we're going to call a coastal flood and erosion control structure. They did not meet the burden of demonstrating how it met the definition. They haven't up to this point in time, and the record doesn't, in my opinion, show how this wall has an effect of, or was constructed for the purpose of, controlling coastal flooding or erosion. So that's the point that we'd like to have addressed. We're not satisfied that it's been addressed. We don't think that we have to go through the exercise of showing that there are no other feasible, less impacting alternatives, because this is not a coastal flood and erosion control structure. We haven't crossed that threshold that we have to address all these other issues. If it was a coastal flood and erosion control structure, yes, we would. In our opinion, it's not, because we don't think it meets the statutory definition.
Do you know, I don't mean to interrupt you, but do you know who has the burden? Is it the town that has the burden, or the state that has the burden, or is it the applicant who's bringing the post?
We're putting information on the record based on our professional expertise, and the decision is made by the Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission, who has to interpret your coastal regulations.
I understand that maybe your counselor will be able to address the question in terms of, you're saying that the statute is the statute is the 22A-109, the definition statute. You're saying that it doesn't have the effect of flood erosion or tidal, the string of things. So is it the town's job to say that it doesn't have, that here's why it has the effect, or is it your job to say here's why it doesn't have the effect?
It's our job to say that.
Are you getting my back? I'm sorry.
It's our job to say that it doesn't have the effect.
Okay.
And frankly, the only evidence you have before you is that it does not. Except for a statement from the Office of Long Island Sound Program, reiterated by Mr. McGee, that it appears to be so. But it doesn't say, my belief is that the substantial evidence is that it doesn't act like an erosion or sedimentation control structure, and it was not built as one. And I think Mr. McGee agrees it wasn't built with that intention, so we're down to effect.
So, yeah, so your
Down to the
position
fact, and it is my wording in here that it is, that I believe it is an erosion control structure, because I believe it prevents the flow of water and the movement of sediment along the beach and creates a nuisance in a severe storm. Yeah, we haven't had a big storm since this wall was constructed late November, but we haven't had an Irene or Sandy lately either.
But how would it do that, Ken?
So,
The water's just going to go
because,
around.
well, it's not the water going around that's causing the problem. It's the water's going against the face of the wall. When it hits, it breaks, it undermines as it cuts back to the water, pulling sediment out. with-
Right, but there was a pre-existing wall already.
No, it wasn't. Down on location, you have a pre-existing wall which is 6 inches high
With that.
at that location, which then climbed up higher. So a 6 inch is different than a 36, 4-foot high wall that he installed there.
Counselor, if this wall were consistent in appearance with the other walls that you put up, it would be easy to believe that it was landscaping intended. Does it look exactly like the other walls?
Pretty much.
Kind of does if you look at this.
The materials are pretty much the same.
Look at that back picture right there.
Right, so this matches the other walls that are
Pretty much.
purely
It's the
for...
same kind of stone. I mean, the wall itself was a little raggedy on top. They cleaned off the top of it, they got a firm base, and then they built up from there. But it had...
Counselor, raggedy, one might say it was eroded.
No, it wasn't eroded. The mortar in the top was just old mortar and needed to be cleaned up so they get a base to go up from.
So the water doesn't meet this wall.
The water line is out here.
Ask you a quick question. If in fact this area were inundated during a flood, while the water is receding, would this wall have the effect of diverting the flow of water? Would the old wall have allowed the water to just flow naturally back, or does this wall divert it in some manner?
To answer that question, the slope of the gravel area behind the wall
Yeah.
is higher to the north or the west than it is to the eastern end. So any water that gets in there would naturally flow back out and around the end of the wall and back into Long Island Sound program. It won't trap water behind.
No, but I'm just curious. I mean, the effect of it is to move the water around the wall as opposed to previously it would just have flown back in a straight line.
But my opinion of that is that isn't the effect of controlling flooding.
How about erosion?
There's no evidence of erosion in that area historically, and there hasn't been since the wall was modified.
If I could insert another comment in that regard here. I understand what's being suggested here in this Long Island Sound program correspondence. Well, if you need this kind of protection from a wall, then maybe you could come up with a different structural solution, like jacking the house 13 feet in the air, which is what's being suggested here. Our point is, the wall wasn't built to protect the house. If it was built to protect the house, it would have wrapped around the house or tied into this wall or something of that kind. That wasn't the purpose, and as a result, as we've just heard, the floodwaters are going to come in and inundate the house, and they're going to go away again, unless we want to jack the house 13 feet in the air. I'm not sure anybody wants us to jack the house 13 feet in the air, but that literally is what's being suggested.
Let's just say we agree completely with you that the purpose of this wall had nothing to do with controlling erosion, okay? We'll agree with that for a moment. I just want to know what, Mr. Sonson, your opinion is. You heard our planner say that what his opinion was. Can you just respond to that in terms of his belief of the effect of the wall being erosion control?
There is no evidence that there is any kind of erosion that's occurred on this beachfront. It's a stable pocket beachfront. The conclusion that waves will break on this wall and cause scour at the toe is not technically supported in the literature from the Corps of Engineers. There could be some kind of action that could cause some splashing and some turbulence in that area, But that turbulence would have taken place up a foot closer to the house. And if there was going to be erosion, there would be erosion right next to the house as opposed to in front of the wall. So in my professional opinion, there is no circumstance that this wall is going to cause accelerated erosion along the shore.
Rob, we'd like to discuss on the Association Beach. It's a lot lower than the existing one, and it's up against the embankment for the road. Or
The association
the
piece?
Association Beach is lower. There's a wall there, and you have a bunch lower elevation.
Talking about the
Caused by
northwest.
it. So there's pretty much evidence that there is storm damage pulling out.
You're talking about
that
the
section there.
northwest
That's at a
end of
different, that's at
the wall.
a different elevation and
Correct, but there's a
Absolutely,
wall,
with a
but there is a
different-
wall behind, against the road, and it becomes lower as the wall's there, you end up with more silt coming out.
it has a much different orientation than this wall. This wall is protected from any kind of wave attack that would run along the face of the wall. If you get the waves coming in up Little Harbor and running up along the side of the wall, you can get velocity flow there, and that could cause some scour along the edge of the wall. This wall is tucked up behind, and so it really doesn't get any kind of flow along its face. Any flow is going to be coming directly at it perpendicular, and that's the reason that the beach is oriented in the way that it is. Beaches tend to form perpendicular to the normal direction of wave attack, which in this case is coming directly onto the wall.
How do you get a wave attack that direction when you have an inland piece of
Yeah, well,
land?
you don't get
points out
very
there?
much wave action in this area at all, because there's no fetch. There's no link from open water.
Breakwaters out on the edge.
So, that's another reason that there hasn't been any erosion of this little beach historically, and why, in my opinion, this wall has no effect on the dynamics of the coast.
Mr. Sonicson, I just wanted to, I guess this is a question for both. What you're saying to us here is that as long as a resident can show, after the fact in this case, that a wall is not a sediment or erosion control structure, then they should be able to build a wall without prior approval, and then this commission should approve it.
I think this commission should find it exempt. That was what the...
Not only
application
approve it,
was.
but find that it is not properly before us at this time.
I don't think that, the issue developed, filed the application, wanted to have a discussion, you have to...
Well, you wanted to have the discussion now.
No.
I mean, the ideal moment might have been before
Okay,
building it.
but
right?
excuse me, you have a regulation that exempts walls. The place was crawling with, engineers, architects, surveyors, inspectors. Nothing was being done here that was, anybody thought was inappropriate, because everybody knew could see what was going on. We regret that anybody was concerned about it.
You guys
Reggie came
both
to us.
know where to find the planning and zoning office. You've been here a
What
lot.
I'm saying is that it's not under our...
If it's exempt, it's exempt.
So you just wanted to get an opinion that it was exempt beforehand, and
And we were asked to file an application. Reggie came here.
that was afterwards, though.
I understand
Yeah.
that, but I still think it's exempt.
Let me just ask Reggie a quick question. Reggie, so if it was under the statute, this regulation, 27391, exemption B5D, would they not have to file any permit to have the wall?
We would still have Deep come down and look at it, with
But-
or without an application, to give us an opinion about whether or not they thought it was an erosion control structure.
So,
We've done that before.
I understand, but if you're just a regular, granted, these are people that had engineers there and architects there, probably know, but if you're just a regular
Oh,
citizen...
sure, somebody on Leeds Island.
Yeah, and they put this up because they look in the code that says, oh, this is exempt. They wouldn't, is that something that's unusual, or you wouldn't
Unless
even
someone
know?
complained, I probably wouldn't know it went up
Okay.
because it's sitting in the backyard.
But you would recommend that in these circumstances, it still come before?
Yes, I would still ask them to make an application.
Okay.
And
So
then you
how did this
decide
just not
to
come
send-
before us until now?
Oh, well, it took them a while to get the application together.
It looked like there was a lot of back.
We had some bad weather too, all winter.
Yeah, we did.
Oh, they weren't, they didn't resist.
Yeah, it looked like it was in February.
Yeah, we found a while. I mean, there wasn't much time that elapsed.
When was the addition to the wall put on?
April?
Of 2014?
2014.
I got a question on that. How come your November plan for demolition of the house above didn't show this if it was from A2 survey?
I am not the surveyor, but the plans I saw have this wall on there.
Yeah, every plan that I've seen, Kevin, has shown the wall. I could stand corrected because I was.
It may be an older survey, but the wall's been there since the 30s.
Yeah, at the knee level wall, right? Or
What?
6 inch, the knee level wall?
6 inches? Whoa.
Forgive me, it starts low and then comes up to chest height, if you look at the pictures.
But by then, it's at below mean high water,
What do you mean?
I don't believe any of it is.
Nothing's below.
down over by the rocks where the,
Oh, if you go all the way around the corner, they're rocks, but that's not what the wall is.
I mean, where the wall ends.
You know, the plan dated November 11, 2014, from Waldo Associates with no wall.
Oh, wait a minute.
And, no, yeah, the existing wall, how it was before. And then I have the more recent application for the wall, which shows the extension. So that's why I'm assuming that was constructed after the November plans on here, unless there was delay in the creation of this plan.
It was last year, it was not over the course of the
Very
year.
tired.
It's, my friends, to the extent anybody thinks that something was going on here, it wasn't, as I say, everything was out in the open, we had building inspectors, we had everybody down there. We think it's exempt, we think it is not an erosion control, shoreline erosion control structure. We think it's not going to have any deleterious effect. We know it's in your jurisdiction to approve it or not. We would ask for a finding that it's exempt, and we will all move on to other projects. We're coming back for the house. It's being reconstructed, so you will see us again.
Just as a matter of clarification, the maximum height increase of the wall is approximately 3 feet. It's not chest high, it's not.
No, but around the corner, it's just over here.
Yeah, but that's the existing.
That was
there.
Yeah.
I'm not a lawyer, this has been going on too long as far as I'm concerned. But I want to ask some questions based on this map. Are you telling us,
Well, that's a picture.
pictures, you're telling us that this is the old wall, it comes all the way around to this here,
Yeah.
and this is the old wall here.
Yeah,
It comes down and goes all the way out here.
yeah, old wall.
That's all the old
You
wall,
can
and it was
almost see it,
already
right?
pre-existing.
Yeah, it was pre-existing.
That's the way I said.
I'm sorry?
You can see the line under the
Yes.
new, yeah.
Yeah, the rocks are a
So-
little bit more angular in the
Yes.
old wall and a little rounder in the new wall.
The topo, behind the old wall and along the front of the house, behind the wall, has that changed?
They put some pea stone back there, but it hasn't changed.
It's the height
house-
of the lawn, what would be, I consider lawn in front of the house hasn't changed.
No, because the house hasn't changed.
Okay.
We haven't jacked the house up.
All right, any other questions? I could move it along. All right, I'll open up to questions from the audience. Anyone have any questions?
I have a question and a comment.
Give us your comment.
Thank you. What's the word? I will not trip and I will be brief. Hi, my name is Carol Fanning. I have lived in 25 Ocean View Road in Guilford for over 20 years. During that time, most of us in the neighborhood have made improvements, some more significant than others. For the entire time we lived there, the cottage on the beach, now owned by the Weismans, was truly an eyesore. Through their entire process of making the cottage into a livable and beautiful addition to our neighborhood, they have shown extreme concern for the effect this construction would have on the neighborhood. They've been careful to make sure their contractors would not disturb the neighborhood as little as possible. The quality of all the construction and landscaping has been nothing but the best quality available. I also feel that having them make these improvements has increased the value of my home. The rock wall was in disrepair. I've seen it, I've been there with it for 20 years. And I believe that their landscaper fixed it to the best of the overall landscaping effort that they were doing, because it was there and they just evened it out. It's a private beach. It's not a public nuisance. The stones were taken from the same pile to do all the stonework around the house. And I've never seen waves in the harbor. And I've been there for 2 storms. And both the times it came over the road, but it never went in their house. It never went in that corner where this stone wall is this big deal. And thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Last chance. All right. Any other questions at all?
I just want to just clarify a couple things here in very, almost both parties here, with Kevin, what you said, kind of like I'm a second grader here. So you guys are saying, with John Goucher and you are agreeing that this is going to cause some erosion problems. You think it is a flood structure that's going to be designed to try to prevent floodwaters?
Deflect waves, correct.
And you guys are in the opinion that it's completely landscape only.
It was a totally benign effort to simply clean up the front.
Okay, so by looking at this and looking at the pictures and seeing everything, do I think that this is going to have anything to do with, I have a home on the water. I was hit twice by the hurricanes. I know, I have video of it, and that wall's not going to do anything when a storm like Sandy, Irene come in. That I'll testify to. As far as I don't know, professionally, because I'm not an engineer, I'm not a surveyor, if it would have an effect on the sand and the erosion pulling back. So that's kind of where I'm hung up, and I just want to make sure and get your opinion of that, because I don't think it's going to, that wall will get destroyed by but definitely. Is it going to affect pulling back, and what is actually affected by the rocks are going to be dropped off somewhere in the sand if it does happen. I don't think they're going to be really washed out the shore. Those are pretty dense. What's the part that's actually going to erode back in and cause the damage to the waters or to the beach? That's what I need to know.
And also, what is the homeowner going to do if that happens? They're not going to just leave it there. They're going to put other sand back there, no?
Well,
fix up the beach.
We got to bring some sand in, but
yeah.
So that's my question: is what is that impact? I mean, because basically what you guys are suggesting is tell them to tear this entire thing down and go back to that what was there,
Correct.
Which is, to me, is very extreme.
But if we had the application beforehand, they wouldn't have gone to that extreme, and they would have had the decision that it would be considered erosion control structure, and they wouldn't have built it. You got the straw here, and you got basically mercy pleading.
Right. So,
no, excuse me. I'm not mercy pleading. It's exempt and would have been if we'd applied before.
So I just
the point here is that we think it's exempt.
What I need to know,
not a game of chicken with the commission.
What I really need to know is how is it going to negatively impact the environment, the coastal resources? What is going to happen that's going to be the negative impact that's going to make me tell them to tear this down?
The water rushing against it and causing the sand to pull either along it and away, or from the wall pulled back towards the water. By action of waves.
It's more appropriate, I think, for us to treat it as whether or not we would have approved putting it up.
Well, I'm not going to argue against anything that
Right.
say that
So let the window. There you go.
Hey, and also, I think you can't look at this as only just for the extreme methods, because this wall is going to be there forever, you know, going forward. So we have to look at it for the daily wear and tear. You're right, it wouldn't do anything for a storm like Sandy, but, you know.
Well, and the daily wear and tear, is
Yeah,
it going to cause damage to the...
that's a question, I don't know. I mean, that's what we have to rely on, you know, the two experts that we have in the room and decide which one is.
And they're both giving us completely different...
Right. But it's a question of whether or not we would say yes to putting it up and declare it exempt, not whether or not. I mean, we had this problem with.
But if this was before us, then
Yeah.
we would have to have the burden of proof, right, that it was...
We would probably receive the same information.
You'd have the same discussion.
We would be having the same
The burden of
discussion.
proof would be on the applicant
Yeah.
to show that it's exempt.
And I think that they have eloquently stated their position, and we have just an opposing position, and we just need to make a decision based on that. That's what we have right now.
Agree.
Okay.
All set?
Yep.
Last chance, anyone else? Last chance. I have a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you very much. I want to ask the commission members, next up we have the coastal resilience plan. It's going to be a rather lengthy. We also, I see we have some other things. We also have guests here for the site plan. Should we make a ruling on this to get this out of the way before we go into something else? Or should we move the coastal resilience down?
Well, I don't know why the coastal resilience should be that lengthy. Everyone has already given ample testimony.
There's a couple of people that want to present testimony
Again?
that actually refutes what the town's experts have said.
Have they already testified before the commission?
Have they
Oh,
testified for more than 15 minutes at our last?
He just said they didn't testify before the
Here?
commission.
Well, they did testify, but
Oh.
they were not given access to certain bits of information that they would have been able to present fully.
That's fine, I don't really care that.
And so I can see that this may take on a life of its own again.
I'm going to move the public hearing on the coastal resilience plan
Down.
to right before D, after the site plan.
Yeah, that's probably the best thing, because that way the folks that are here to present site plans have an opportunity.
I'll second this motion.
Yeah.
If you're doing that, could you also do correspondence to two other people here for that?
Oh, after correspondence?
In correspondence.
So move it to after E. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to move public hearing item number 3 to immediately after agenda letter E, to sit in F for other.
That's fine. Tom, do you agree?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, good. Thank you. Thank you very much. All right, so let's go to Russo Real Estate.
This application, the applicant has requested that you continue this to the 6th of May.
So can I get a motion to...
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All right.
Public
Can I get a
hearing.
motion to approve the revised agenda?
So moved. Oh, second.
All those in favor? Aye. All right, so let's talk about Ms. Weissman. What do we think?
Honestly, I think that Kevin is what, we have to hear what Kevin's thoughts. Kevin, can you describe in any more detail the difference, they had their expert sort of testify that the Army Corps of Engineers doesn't agree that the wave hitting this wall is going to cause erosion. Is that true?
Army,
He said, did you hear? Yeah.
no chance of erosion from it?
He didn't say no chance. He said that it's not necessarily on, it's.
Hasn't happened yet.
No, what I'm saying is, I'm not being very clear because, did you hear what he was taught when I asked him to respond to what you had to say, right? And he said that, well, what Kevin said was that the wave erosion would cause, the wave hitting against the seawall would cause the sand to sort of push aside and cause erosion.
Correct.
And he said that the Army Corps of Engineers position on that, doesn't really have a position on that. It's not documented, or that's actually true.
DEP's the same position on it, not documented, because Army Corps wasn't involved with this.
No, but he was just giving his professional opinion. In his professional opinion, he said the literature that he knows on this subject doesn't substantiate what you're saying. Is that true? Or do you have literature that does substantiate what you say?
The literature, and if you look on the top of the handout I gave there, the reason why DEP says they are against hard structures, and this is a hard structure, on the shoreline has been well documented that wave water hitting these walls cause erosion of the beaches adjacent to it.
And then what's the long-term effect of something like that?
You lose your beach, you end up with additional sand somewhere else doesn't belong, or else sometimes with the walls, you have good sand on your property, but once you leave where the wall is, you start digging down and eroding the beaches and stuff down away from that wall.
So is it your position that over time, the adjacent beaches will be eroded because of this wall? Because of the, okay, that's your position? And you believe that position to be?
Yep, and that's what I stated directly.
Is there any mitigation measure such as piping or something else that would make this wall less of an erosion concern? That obviously that hasn't been brought up by the applicant.
Concerns, the alternates is what I suggest in the letter is that the beach nourishment, some vegetation on the slope there.
Is it in order for us to require beach nourishment of the applicant?
If the group denies this as denies the application, you have to provide alternatives. And that's what they were listing in the recommendations there.
Well, I was talking about it in terms of conditions of approval.
Are they asking for approval or are they asking for exemption?
They're asking for an exemption, but they're asking that we determine that our code recognizes this wall as exempt.
Right, so if they're not...
What we have before us drafted is an approval that can also include conditions.
But the approval's not what they're asking for.
Correct, but we don't have to give them, just as we can deny the application, we can also approve it rather than declare it exempt, per se.
So the first vote would have to be what they're asking for, which is whether or not it's exempt. If it's not exempt...
No, if we are approving it, we're finding that it is not exempt and that we approve it nonetheless.
I'm sorry. We're
Correct?
approving it?
If we were to approve this application, then we would be finding that our code does not treat this wall as exempt, but we're approving it anyway.
As a flood and erosion control structure.
So our choice
As
is
a
not...
flood and erosion control structure.
Right, but we're not given the choice of saying that this is not of...
We do have
Yeah, we
that
do,
choice.
yeah. Walter just saying that's one option.
There are three.
Right, so one option would be...
Really
four options.
One option would be that it's exempt and it's not
Correct.
an erosion control structure.
In which case, it would not really be appropriate for us to impose conditions.
Right.
If we were to approve it as a flood and erosion control structure after the fact, it would be appropriate for us to impose conditions.
Right.
Depending on our interpretation of our own code. Is that accurate? How do you feel about what I just said, George?
I'm not sure, I'm sorry, I missed the first part of the preamble to all this, but
Exempt as opposed to finding that the wall is exempt as opposed to approved.
if it's exempt, then that's the end of the
That's
story.
right.
There's no
If
further
we
discussion.
determine that it is not exempt, but we would like to approve it anyway, or if we find that it is not exempt and we would like to deny it,
Those are both options, yeah.
and if we were to approve it, what would be appropriate conditions related to the beach and/or mitigation of the erosion concern based on the water flow?
I can't, that part, the second part of that, I would defer to Kevin.
There isn't any mitigation on the beach because
Right.
going to be destroying you, there's nothing that you can put on the beach to mitigate the effect of the wall.
I think the,
It would be renourishment, that would be, even that would be tricky.
in some ways, this question is, obviously it revolves around what's the definition of an erosion control structure. And as the debate unfolded here tonight, it seemed pretty clear to me that if it is an erosion control structure, it's a really minor one. And the amount of there's certainly some situations, as Kevin described, where it could very well be some erosion as a result of some flooding. It's likely to be extremely small amount of erosion.
But that's not what I heard. I heard Kevin say that this is going to cause these beaches to disappear.
That's what I heard.
Over time, you're looking
Over
at a
time.
20-year period.
I mean, like, and that's why, because I don't have that expertise, but if I look at this, do I think that this beach, any beach is going to go away with a wall like that in 20 years, maybe in 100 years? But if you're telling me in 20 years this wall is going to save the beach, I'm going to have to listen because I'm not an expert and I don't know.
But, I mean, the other thing that we don't have is we don't have neighbors here saying, oh, this wall is causing a lot of damage to my property, and we know this wall is going to cause damage to our property. We just have the town saying we're going to lose a couple beaches.
But it's not, and in essence, it's still not a private beach anyway because you only own to the high water line.
And they're on the side of the high water line, so they're on their property.
I don't know. Is there another committee or commission that
It's going to happen.
Can we refer to our experts in the back row back there?
Yeah, do we have more opinions?
So,
They're keeping their opinions to themselves. I mean, they're just whispering them among each other.
I don't know. We're making my opinion, and I don't know if my opinion counts, but it seems like we're making an awful big deal.
If we find it exempt, any resident in town can put up a wall that is not, as long as it's not significantly protecting against flooding. Any resident in town can put up a wall.
We have said in the
along
past
beach.
that we're not granting this permission all the time, forever, always. In this case, we're examining this case. I don't know that by saying yes to this,
Then we're on the
that big
brink of
scary thing
arbitrary
they're going to
criticism.
put
I
an
think
oil
we're off
refinery.
approving after the fact, if in fact that's the inclination, saying
Yeah.
it should have been brought before the committee before.
Could be two different motions.
Yeah.
It could be two
But-
different motions, though.
Can be recognized for the approval motion.
I know what you're going to do.
I'm going to do approval.
I would prefer before that we have an exemption and just cut to the chase.
That interpretation poses some risk, Mr. Chairman.
Well, explain to me how. Educate me.
Well, can I know Walter has an opinion, probably a separate opinion than I do. My only issue with the complete exemption is that we're sort of completely negating everything that our town employees are suggesting as to the effects of, because the definition is purpose. So let's all agree that they didn't make this wall to protect their house. I think we could all agree that. It's decorative, okay? But the other component of the definition is effect. Does this affect, is this in effect an erosion control structure? And if it is, then it's got to go through this channel, and then we can't make it exempt. So if we now are saying that something where our town says it is an erosion control method, we believe it to be an erosion control structure, and we're saying, you know what, it's not. We're getting really close to. I really don't know. I mean, I know we have an engineer saying that it's not an erosion control structure, and he believes that it's not an erosion control structure, but I just don't know how I can.
Okay, and I got your point.
Yeah.
But I think that asking whether or not the commission, and we're going to vote.
Yeah.
We'll determine if enough of us believe that it's exempt or not. And that's the least intrusive of all the things we can do. You always have an insightful opinion.
How is it different to exempt it versus approve it after the fact?
Well, you could do.
Also approval means that we believe it to be a structural, a control method. Exemption means that it's just decorative. So that's how it's different. That's the only way it's different.
Well, no, because
But you just said it's
But the end effect, would be
the
the same, right?
No, because if you approve it and somebody sticks the condition, let's say they use Kevin McGee's conditions, then they're going to ask for it to be torn down.
Well,
Richard, I
still
agree
be
with you that
approved.
it is decorative, but it might have the effect of a erosion control structure.
So we all know that.
Yeah.
We're all thinking that. And the first, least intrusive of our votes would be an exemption. And you're entitled to your opinion.
Yeah,
You're
no, of
entitled to
course.
vote no.
Yeah.
We're all entitled to vote yes or no, but I would think that the first
Tom's ready to
motion...
make that motion.
I'll make the motion if you want.
I'd like to make a simple motion. I mean, I appreciate Kevin, I think he does a great job, but in this case, you have a civil engineer putting his,
Stamp.
saying that this is not erosion control, versus not having any, I do agree with the attorney that John Goucher may just have missed it, but just to say it's an erosion control, it's an erosion control mechanism, but not defining how it is, what makes it an erosion control, he never did that.
Well, we could ask Kevin right now.
And so Kevin tried to, but the evidence is based on the water flow and the history there, that it's not.
We've all heard it. We can all cast a vote.
So
Here's
I'm
my other
gonna,
monkey wrench that I have in this thing, because I've been on this commission for quite a few years, and I could tell you how many times John Goucher's actually commented on something, which has probably been twice. All right? And this was the second one, so that's the other thing that's making me want to make sure that we're doing the right thing, because he never has an opinion.
I think it's ridiculous that we're going to make them tear down their wall. I really do.
I don't think that's really going to happen.
But the thing is, I don't know what the options are. That's my problem.
Okay, so
Let's put a motion.
No, make a motion.
Put an exemption.
Put a motion.
I'm just going to make a motion that the Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission finds that this is not an erosion control structure and does not fall under.
But you could just read, that's a very top one.
Very top.
Voted.
Okay, I didn't see that there, I was only looking at the approval.
Yeah.
Voted that the Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission agrees with the applicant Mara Weisman that the wall at 17 Andrews Road is exempt from coastal management site plan requirements.
I'll second it.
Okay, so there are 7 of us. You're going to stand down, and Richard, you're going to stand down because you're alternates right now. So it's you two gentlemen, you two, and me.
We have a roll call?
We should. All right, so all those in favor of declaring that this wall is exempt and not subject? 1, 2, 3, 4. That does not carry. Oh, it does carry.
It does carry.
It does carry. Congratulations.
We're back in the regular...
Not a wall. Oh, no, it is a wall.
We're not
It's
doing that thing anymore where we have 10 votes all of a sudden.
Can you take the number?
No, we got to do the no's and abstains as well.
Anyone knows that it is a wall, it is a thing, and you two are exempt. So. Good, okay, so, phew.
Oh, boy.
Okay, so
It's not going to find me.
We interpreted that it's exempt.
it's exempt.
That's terrifying.
Now, the state's going to come in and
Let's
visit
see what's
us.
going to happen.
All right, we're up to site plans, yes?
Let's see what
Okay. D. Jacob, Marketplace Emporia, the Marketplace, Guilford Food Center, 77 Whitfield Street, lot 39. Lot 91, Zone C1, revision to site plan, add restaurant, use 40 seats, replace existing dumpsters, southwest corner, site with portals for building, remove fence and cooler. Rear building, add handicap accessible 14x6 rear entry, located by common green, which is joint property owner 6.5 feet from sideline lot line, up to 6-foot setback reduction allowed, further action deferred until tonight, and I see we have someone presenting, yes?
No.
Presented at the last
Yeah,
meeting.
Mr.
Action was just deferred to this meeting.
Mr. Chairman, having heard the entire presentation of the applicant, I would like to put the site plan description in the form of a motion, and we have to say the location. For this, we have to actually say the
We have a proposed motion.
date and time.
You didn't act on this last time because you did not have a report from the Director of Health.
Dennis Johnson.
You do have a Director of Health report now?
Why don't we read that into the record?
I got that for you. Oh, you got it?
Yeah, take a break.
Okay, thanks, Frank.
To the Planning and Zoning Commission, Dennis Johnson, Director of Health, dated April 14th, 2015, on the Marketplace Emporia LLC. The applicant's proposed food establishment renovation will add 40 seats and generate an increased wastewater flow. A review of the existing septic system determined that the adequate septic system capacity and reserve area are presently available on-site for the proposed restaurant use. Based upon the site plan review and soil test information, it's recommended that the applicant's proposed use be approved. And that's also CC to the Guilford Historic Commission.
The old historic.
All right, Mr. Chairman, if it's in order, I'd like to make the approval motion.
Please do.
Voted that the Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission approve a revision to site plan, add restaurant use, 40 seats, replace existing dumpsters in southwest corner of site with 4 totes at rear of building, remove fenced-in cooler at rear of building, and add handicap accessible 14-foot by 6-foot rear entry located by common agreement with adjoining property owner 6.5 feet from side lot line for Deirdre Jacob, Marketplace Emporia LLC, 77 Whitfield Street. Map 39, Lot 91, Zone C1 is shown on, quote, property survey, land now or formerly Margaret M. Rosa, 77 Whitfield Street, Guilford, Connecticut, end quote, dated 3/30/2015, prepared by Luke's spelled L-U-C-H-S, Consulting Engineers, and as shown on a floor plan dated, quote, received Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission, April 1, 2015, end quote. This application is approved with no additional conditions.
No.
Is that correct, staff? This application is approved based upon a finding that it conforms to Article 9 and Section 273-27A of the zoning code.
Second.
Any other discussion?
Does staff have any particular conditions that are of concern that we missed?
Nope.
Mr.
All right.
Chairman, I ask to call the question.
All those in favor?
Aye.
So it's unanimous, it carries. Perfect, congratulations. Sandwiches all around. All right, what are we doing? Weichert Realty. Oh, they're going to receive and take action. So Weichert Realtor, Suburban Property Site Plan Revision, change of use from retail to professional office, 688 Boston Post Road, Mass 48, Lot 20, Zone 2, yes, Article 9. Request to receive and take action. Coming up, anyone got it?
Not here. They don't appear to be here. Oh, maybe they are.
Yes, they are.
That was our
I'm Vincent Ingingro, I'm Weichert Realtors. I've been an owner broker for 4 years in Guilford on Water Street. And we're looking to relocate to 688 Boston Post Road, which was the Guilford Paint Store. They've moved down the street, and we're looking to grow. It's a little bit bigger space. We're really no exterior changes, interior remodeling, which is in the process of paint and carpet. Our use is a basic real estate office, sales and leasing. As it was a paint store prior to our proposed use. Prior to that, it's been a restaurant, it's been a dental office. So it's been a series of things similar to our use. There's 14 parking spaces in parking lot, which is more than sufficient for our use these days with the way real estate is. So I think it would be a perfect fit.
Nice. And it's right next to Pasta Vest.
So you should. Absolutely.
Is
that a single level?
2 levels.
What are you going to do with the upstairs?
It's occupied by the downers who own the building. It's just a change of use.
So it's to the...
No restaurant, so it's no septic.
To the right of Pasta Vest.
It's to the east of Pasto Vest, on the south side. I got you, sorry.
Should we vote to receive it? Making a motion to receive this?
So, second.
All those in favor?
Aye. Okay. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to move to approve.
I'll make a motion.
Oh, no.
actually, there's
Go
one. It says, voted that the Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission approve a site plan revision change of use from retail to professional office, 688 Boston Post Road, map 48, lot 28, for Weichert Realtors, as shown on an application dated 4/9/15. This application is approved based upon a finding that it conforms with the zoning code.
Second.
All right.
Wow, look at this,
Any other
4/9.
discussion?
This was a quick turnaround.
Yeah, we took 2 hours for the first.
Oh, I mean, but they only had this application in for like 3 days.
Yeah, that's. We meet All right, any other discussion?
We're paragons of efficiency. Let's call the question.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Go sell some houses.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to move to receive Village Green Garden Site Plan Revision, Storage, and Display of Nursery Garden-Related Items, 715 Boston Post Road, map 47, lot B, zone C4, 11, Article 9. I'd like to put that in the form of a motion.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Recommend tabling.
Table.
Second.
Is this already up and running?
Yeah, but they're looking for the display.
It went from, the premises was formerly occupied by retail, which was Hokon.
Hokon, yes.
So these people are doing the same thing inside.
Right, but these
now
people
they have
plowed,
outdoor.
they plowed the entire backyard.
Yes.
They removed all kinds of equipment. Are
Yes.
we not right near a wetland there?
No, no wetlands on the property.
Well, we cleared probably close to an acre of land, and now we're coming for approval?
I don't think they need approval to clear the land.
Okay.
No, that should be as of right,
All right.
up to the certain
They
point
just
of the
want to have
property
outdoor
line.
display of merchandise and storage.
Okay. All right.
Going on now inside the
It's
building?
nursery related items, they're big things,
Right.
you know, bags of mulch, peat moss.
Frank, can you have a date on that table?
Did you see
So
it?
when are we tabling it to?
It's just
Next
happened.
meeting.
Next meeting,
So that's
Second
May-
that.
May 2nd?
May 6th.
May 6th. 6th or 7th?
Wow, we got a long break.
All right.
Table
Table to May
6th.
6th, please.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Yeah, great. Okay, now are we doing these other ones too?
Yes.
You have 2 receives on zoning amendments.
Killing me here.
The first one is the propane storage, which you actually had a public hearing on
Right,
before.
right, so planning voted on this now, it's formally coming forward. So does someone want to read this? Should we read this, or?
Well, we just have to set a public hearing.
Oh, that's right, okay, so let's, May 20th?
So moved.
Second.
Request that we amend it to at the community center, Mononkatuk Room, 2nd floor.
Okay.
Right? Don't we have to do that?
Yes.
Oh, that's right.
That's right.
New rules.
What's going on?
Amended.
Just
say so amended.
So amended.
And I'll so second it.
All those in favor? Okay, and receive and set public hearing date May 6th for signage regulations, then?
Shopping center.
This is a proposed change to the regulations for the Guilford Commons. Also add public hearing, community center, and Mononkatuk Room.
What does this involve?
It involves their desire to put a sign up on the part of the building that's visible from Route 1 as you drive west through the interchange area. You may have noticed the building up there. I think the original plan had one sign there. I think they want to have another one. So
Is
they
this the
need,
one, I just want to remember, it's like a blinking sign or something, or?
Yes. Blinks and it actually continues and changes, all LED backlit.
I don't know. All we want you to do is set the public hearing.
You would vote for that. I know you would.
No, I would not.
Maybe motion to
They belong inside.
I will make that.
So moved.
And I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Blinking signs. Correspondence sightlines.
Oh, that's this too. Is there something?
Oh, is this,
I don't know what we're doing.
405 Church Street?
This is the office building just north, or one of the office buildings north of the interchange on Church Street. I think they're doing interior renovations. They need some outside storage space while that's taking place.
And there's an applicant here.
Just in
explaining.
case.
Somebody here wants to
Okay.
talk about it.
So why don't we have an applicant come up and tell us about this beautiful structure? Pods.
Hi, I'm Barbara Casey, 48 Russet Drive in Guilford. We're doing some renovation. We've expanded into space that's been vacated at 405.
Slide over
What am I doing?
right in front of the camera.
That's great.
Sorry. And we need to move technical equipment and some of our desks and things into temporary storage while we renovate. So I'm asking for storage. I gave you a site plan as well, and the site plan has circled where those 2 pods would be.
I don't think you have that.
No, we don't have it.
We have a
Oh,
drawing.
I'm sorry.
No, No, we have one copy. We didn't make multiple
Oh.
copies.
Is this going to be in back?
It could be in back. They currently are probably going to be in the front because that's where there's more parking, but they could be in back if you choose.
And they're going to be there for 4 months?
Right, exactly, till August. It may be, in fact, not quite so long, but
Since you're here.
you know how renovations
I
go.
do know. All right.
Is this just south of the highway?
No, it's
It
north.
is right
North of
across
the
from the racket club and the police station.
Oh,
There's a red building
The-
set back from the road.
So it's directly behind Gail Katowski's law office?
Yes, and actually just in front of the Guilford Arts Center.
Okay.
Is there a motion that needs to be made? Okay. I'll make a motion to approve the storage units, the two 12-foot storage pods at 405 Church Street, map 80, lot 23, zone I-1, from April 16th through August 30th.
Great.
We want to give her a little extra time in case it runs over.
Yeah.
Let's say from April 16th through October 30th?
October, let's do Halloween. We can have the Halloween
Okay.
party in the iPod.
Well, yeah, October 30th, so they'll be gone by the 31st.
So they can't have Halloween with them.
That's right, that's right.
Would you like to?
Second.
Oh, just try that.
I don't know if they're going to do business while they're down
All right, we have a second. All those in favor of the pod storage units? Congratulations.
Not guilty.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good work.
Take care.
Thank you, Bob. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Oh,
This is my life.
all right, 66 High Street.
This is how we live.
Good luck for you.
Oh, boy.
This is a storage trailer
Wait till
too.
you eat the gun.
That's on.
Oh, good.
How are you?
Good, how are you, sir?
I'm the new guy, so I'm not saying too much. I just shake.
Proposing, we want to put a storage trailer on site and also just a contractor trailer also. Side by side, right to the left of the existing building.
Just from my own knowledge, if somebody's already got approval to do construction and gone through all of the processes, they need to come here to put a contractor trailer on their property?
Doesn't make any sense, but those are
Yes,
the rules.
unless they show it on the site plan that we approved.
But it's a temporary,
Right.
And is this something that we
It's in our
can,
regs.
can we give this power to you at some point for just the
No.
office to approve?
We
Okay,
can
so-
talk about that after, right now.
yeah, let's,
Right, so,
Take care of
so,
this gentleman.
so what do we do? You can always come back if 3
You've
years
been
isn't enough.
approved by this Planning and Zoning Commission as well as by the Historic District Commission.
No.
That still hasn't
That
come
still
through.
hasn't been approved.
They don't have jurisdiction over temporary structures.
Oh, yeah, no, I was just wondering whether or
You
not
mean the actual
all of the
project?
approvals were complete or
No,
not.
They haven't gone to the historic district.
But we don't, that's not relevant to us at this time.
No.
Is 3 years enough time?
I hope so.
Well, should we make it more just in case?
So they come back.
3 years
Obviously,
is
if he
plenty.
finishes, he's going to get rid of the trailers.
We shouldn't really
No, we can-
approve
he can come
temporary
back
structures for more than 3 years. I don't think. It would be
yeah, I
weird.
would, I would do,
year at the end of that, we could pretty
Yeah, it was-
easily
do
approve
3
that.
max.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we approve at 66 High Street, a 56-foot by 12-foot storage trailer and a 40-foot by 8-foot storage trailer for the duration, well, for 3 years, starting April 16th, 2015 until April 16th, 2019. 18. I thought we were in 16, you know?
Well,
We were testing to see if we
You
were-
added 3 properly,
It
you added it to the wrong
felt
one.
like it tonight, but we're still in 15.
I do have a question.
15 to 18.
Can we get a
It's
second?
just simple, but I still have a question.
Second.
Shouldn't this become effective when they actually have a building permit?
Not necessarily.
I mean, those trailers could go on the property, and the process of getting them all the approvals could drag on for 6 months.
But while they're
We're
getting,
still doing demolition.
Yeah, they're doing demo.
there are things they're allowed to do that would be,
All right,
yeah.
I'll shut up.
Yeah.
Tom,
No,
will
you're
you
right.
second my motion?
You're right, there are things they can't do,
Tom
but
seconded.
there's things they can do.
Good, it's reaching across the aisle. All right, we have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Congratulations.
Thank you.
Bill. All right, so now, Coastal resilience.
Mr. Chairman, I had a question before we started this public hearing on coastal resilience. Since we have had 2 public hearings on coastal resilience, and we've had a lot of testimony, and I've been educated on a lot of different components of this coastal resilience plan, I was wondering if there's any way that we can limit the testimony by individuals to 15 minutes, not including questions by us to the individual who is
Or 4 minutes.
or 4
per
minutes. I mean,
person.
I think that there should be maybe some limitation.
Right, I happen to be aware of one person who wants to make a presentation that he promises will not be more than 15 minutes.
So that's why I think 15 minutes might be fair if you've already set it
I
up.
think, how about 15 minutes? I would go with 15
Okay,
minutes.
and maybe, I don't know how we would keep track of it, I guess. I can. Okay, Phil's got that.
Phil's got that. He's got the-
Not your phone, the one you can't control.
We know it works.
I'm bringing it
And we know Phil's phone works.
Do we know that?
Operator error, operator error.
As Josh said, this is the 3rd public hearing on this subject. I'm sure you're all very familiar by now with the coastal resilience plan and our proposal to make it part of the plan of conservation development. Most importantly, we hope that this will include the public hearing portion of this process. Our project team, several members of our project team are here tonight and would like to make concluding comments, and also thank you for your consideration of all of this. We have prepared a document which you all have in your packet. It's called a preamble. It's something that we were supposed to add to the plan. It tries to address the questions and issues that the commission has raised about this project, and attempts to put this in the context of our previous planning projects, and helps us to understand, I think, a little bit better why this is so important and why plan of conservation and development is so important. The Coastal Resilience Plan is proposed to be a component of the plan of conservation and development. It's intended to aid the town in improving coastal resilience. It's intended to aid the decision makers in the town who will be addressing issues related to coastal resilience in the future. It's a guidance document intended to provide guidance and expertise and options to the Board of Selectmen, the Planning and Zoning Commission, the Hazard Mitigation Commission, the Public Works Commission and Department, Land Acquisition Commission, the Building Department, Conservation Commission, Economic Development Commission, Parks and Recreation Commission and Department, as well as the citizens of the town and property owners and residents in our coastal neighborhoods. The plan is designed to provide information and advice that would be useful to all of those decision makers when we deal with issues related to coastal resilience. The proposed plan positions Guilford as a leading community in Connecticut. You heard testimony along those lines, and I can speak to that personally. Our plan is seen as a model by many communities as a progressive way of dealing with and confronting the issues associated with coastal resilience. The plan provides a framework to guide town officials as they make decisions about a wide variety of activities intended to reduce risks. These include selecting and prioritizing coastal adaptation projects, capital improvements, land use changes, zoning regulation changes, other building regulation changes. The plan itemizes and identifies options in those areas of activity that the town, through its decision-making process, can engage and develop over the future. The plan increases opportunities to secure federal and state funding for the town of Guilford to do coastal adaptation projects. The plan provides a process for engaging the citizens of the town, stakeholders in this process, especially our neighborhoods that are affected by this, our coastal neighborhoods. The plan envisions a process where coastal neighborhoods can begin to develop their own plans pursuant to the issues that are identified in this document. As I mentioned, this is a guidance document. The town citizens and administrators will decide how the ideas are ultimately implemented, the ideas in the plan. Fundamental to the plan's goal of improving coastal resilience is a process that will be continually updated, hopefully, and implemented over a period of time. It's a plan that's intended to be transparent and heavily reliant on public participation. The plan is designed to identify activities that the town can take to mitigate adverse impacts and to protect coastal property values. By property values, we mean not just monetary values, but all the values that we associate with our coastal community, all the things that are special about our coastal neighborhoods that make Guilford a special place. Government-imposed solutions, such as eminent domain, are not recommended as part of this plan. This preamble that I'm summarizing right now is intended to become part of the Plan of Conservation and Development and part of the Coastal Resilience Plan. The plan initiates planning processes that will include administrators, citizens, and professionals across the town to navigate multiple interests with the best information available about coastal changes and associated risks. The plan will be implemented by the Board of Selectmen, the Planning and Zoning Commission, the Hazard Mitigation Commission, and the other agencies in the town as identified previously. That summarizes the preamble. I've also made you a copy of an email that Ray Bauer sent me, which I think is very helpful to addressing this subject. The most important thing that Ray says in his email is that he thinks the plan is a good start. We need to start the planning process, and I think approving this plan enables us to do that. It doesn't mean that everything is perfect in the plan. It doesn't mean that it's as complete as it could be, but it does begin the process of implementation and further planning down the road.
George,
at this point, I'm sorry, yeah.
You said a couple sentences ago that it does not, say the words again about eminent domain.
This plan says, the specific sentence is, government-imposed solutions such as eminent domain are not recommended.
Were they recommended in the original copies I read?
No, they were. Eminent domain is listed as a tool of local government that is available to address land acquisition and property acquisition issues as they may arise in the future. So the plan made a statement of fact. Eminent domain is a power that local government has. This plan is not recommending eminent domain as part of its decision-making process or its tools for implementation. That's what that sentence is intended to convey. At this point, I'd like to invite Nathan Crowley from the Nature Conservancy to make a couple of concluding comments.
Is this the right spot to stand? Okay. Thanks. I don't really have a lot to add to what you've already heard. I think one of the things I wanted to remind us all is that we've been working on this with the town for years. We've had many meetings with the public attending. There have been department heads and staff members of the town who've seen many forms of information about this, and so if nothing else, this plan that you're deliberating on is a culmination of all of this work that's taken place and exists in various files and some of the other reports that are referred to. So I think that's something to keep in mind, that part of what this plan is doing is kind of pulling all that together into one place. In essence, the way we see this is that this plan, as I think you were saying, George, establishes the basis of looking at this issue. It's not prescriptive, it doesn't say what to do, it tries to bring as much information to the table as has been possible to bring at this point, but it begins the process of looking forward. It doesn't tell the town how to move forward. We looked at risks and vulnerabilities that we never really necessarily knew were there before. And we started looking at solutions and options for what the town could do. That's all, as George said, to help enable the town to be better prepared. So the basis of this plan is saying that it's better to be prepared than to be unprepared, is basically it. The last thing I would say is that I am a coastal landowner myself. I own a house and live with my family in Tubbs Point. I was very affected by Sandy and Irene in terms of wondering what people were going to think about property values and whether they'd even want to live on the coast. I also, anything that's going to change my property value has a direct effect on me personally. So I can say honestly, I don't feel that this plan will do anything but help the town be stronger by looking at these issues and being better prepared to deal with them than they would if they decided not to look at this at all. So, thank you very much.
Thank you. At this point, I'd like to invite Alex Felsen from the Yale Forestry and Environmental Studies School and the Yale School of Architecture.
All right, thank you. George.
Hi, everybody. So first, I just want to say thank you to Guilford and with the opportunity that we've had to be part of this process over the last several years. We've been engaged with George and Kevin and others working on kind of envisioning what this plan might look like, how to craft it in a way that we thought was an effective expression of an approach and process that might be meaningful to at the town scale. Recognizing the kind of the implications of this planning process for local homeowners and for town management as being an issue that, you know, there was some uncertainty and risk involved, and trying to show through our process a way in which this planning, a way in which this could move forward effectively. So one thing to just mention is early is that really the Yale and the UD Lab had no vested kind of financial interest in the process. We saw this, we were encouraged to participate, and we got involved, and we added, or we developed a lot of the graphics and planning strategies of the project. And I think in a sense, I think that the plans that were developed for Seaside Avenue, for example, were, created a bit of tension and uncertainty amongst homeowners, but they also created, reams of comments and feedback from town individuals, so Mr. Gale, Mr. Griffin, Mr. Nugent gave information that I think is exactly the kind of iterative process and back and forth that we need to, with town individuals, to recognize the shared risk and recognize the concerns and start to vet what options we have strategically. And I think it also reveals, having overlaid this, the climate change models, which we all know models are inherently wrong at some level because you're relying on the data going into them. But we looked at the model overlay, and then we also looked at Sandy, and they're very similar. So the model for 2080s and the Sandy overlay had similar implications, and the implications, if nothing else, encourage that we need to think ahead and plan, because that's a critical part. So that's ultimately, that idea was what we were trying to get at. Now, since working at Guilford, I was part of the Bridgeport Rebuild by Design team. I now was part of the state HUD grant that recently went through for Fairfield and New Haven County, and I've gone and talked with and worked with town engineers from Milford, Stratford, Fairfield, Stamford, East Haven, West Haven, and Clinton. And so I've seen a lot of the ways in which different towns are trying to work on these issues. And one thing is that there is a lot of the challenge that towns face is this uncertainty and this concern, this uncertainty in terms of what the risk is and what the implications are for homeowners and for the tax base. So from Guilford, by developing this plan, and Guilford is positioned and is taking advantage of what's kind of the right time. At the state level, they're pushing funding, they're pushing ways forward. Guilford has stayed ahead of the game, and in the coastal resilience plan, you're still ahead of the game with this plan, but there are other locations, Stratford, the COGS are working on it, coastal resilience plans for multiple municipalities. There's a lot of this happening elsewhere, and so there's this, I think my message is that, this is the right time, I think, to take advantage of the circumstances to open up the planning process and make some quality decisions. Now, I want to mention that I don't think that the way in which we went about this process is exactly, it wasn't ideal, because we kind of, in a way, put the cart before the horse. We developed planning proposals that weren't really part of the local discussion and didn't have multiple options. but that, it showed what some of the risks are, and it revealed some of those kinds of issues. We're open and have suggested that we move those plans out of the main document with the idea that they've kind of served their purpose. And we want to start with a planning and communication effort at the bottom up in individual homes, thinking strategically, what can we do, where can we compromise, how do we get the most out of town? And so that's our intention of moving forward, ideally in a process that allows people to vet and raise their concerns about what issues they have, thinking about whether storm surge is a priority. Maybe sea level rise isn't something we need to define right now, but we recognize the storm surge issues and we want to take those kinds of risks into account. And so I think moving forward, I would just say that deciding not to move this forward now, in my opinion, is a deferral of the risks. I think it's kicking the can down the road in a sense, because this is taking place across the state. There's funding opportunities, and I think it's going to happen quickly where other towns get in line and start positioning themselves to try to get some of this funding as well. And I'm particularly interested, as an academic, working with a town that is forward-thinking and open, but also recognizes the constraints and risks and concerns, and wants to do this in a way that's integrated with the process of the Planning and Zoning Commission's procedures. To think strategically about how to help and craft a way forward for Guilford neighborhoods on a case-by-case basis. So I just want to say thank you for the opportunity. I also want to just mention quickly Tim Tearaway, PhD student over there, who has been really essential, a critical contributor to the essence of this plan and this planning process. And I think it's been really exciting to see Tim grow and learn from the process, and thinking about the concerns and constraints. I don't want to speak for you, Tim, but
Other than saying, echo what Alex said, thank you for the opportunity to participate in this for over 3 years now.
so thank you very much.
Great, thank you. We're going to take a little quick break for a change in tape. We will not transact any business or have any discussion until the camera comes back on. Thank you. All right, we're back, and we have not discussed anything. We haven't taken any other testimony, and we're going to continue with the hearing on the Plan of Conservation and Development. We have a guest who's going to address the commission. You want to come up and tell us what you got?
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Commissioner, and I appreciate the commission taking the time to listen to what I have to say. I've been wanting to do this for 3 years, and this finally had the opportunity.
Name, please?
I'm sorry, Kirtland Griffin, 638 Westlake Avenue.
Thank you.
Okay. Looking good so far. Okay. That's not sure. Pardon me? I haven't used this computer in 3 years.
What is this thing?
Okay. Well.
Drop-down box.
Shall we? Okay, thank you. All right. Coastal resilience, question mark. This is in answer to your question about, have we heard this before, have we heard from this person before, et cetera. This document was handed out at the last meeting where we discussed this, and there was no opportunity for me. It was supposed to be on the town website on January 8th, and we got it at the last meeting. Okay, so this is the science report, or whatever you want to call it, from the committee that supposedly addressed all the questions. So, Guilford's property values. If you want to make a hypothetical case for projected sea level rise implications, use hypothetical properties, not Seaside Avenue. Will the plan by itself affect property values? Will a plan that projects a 52-inch sea level rise affect values more than one that projects, say, 8 inches? Of course it will. What is the purpose of the Nature Conservancy in the plan? TNC buys properties. That's one of their main functions. They buy properties from willing sellers, right? Nathan corrected me on that. They already have $6 billion worth. Are we to believe they have no interest in the acquisition of your property? I went on the website a couple of years ago, and the things that they recommend for coastal resilience, number one was property acquisition. That site is gone that way. Okay. I support removal of the seaside avenue scenario from the plan. And there's also a section in there, in the appendix, where they talk about vacating properties. And there's a whole bunch of whole streets that are listed as vacate properties. That's the action that should be taken. I find that objectionable. Are we seeing a lot of sea level rise? Believe it or not, I'm a windsurfer. Haven't done it in the last couple of years, but over the past 35 years, I've windsurfed, sailed, and fly fished Guilford Harbor. The fins on my windsurfers drag the bottom at low tide as they have the entire time since 1980. And if you don't think I'm out there, that's my boat right there. The Guilford Harbor is about a foot deep at low tide, most of it. It's the projected sea level rise that are the issue, which is the basis of this report, basically. Certainly, actual storm activity is a major determinant of desirability of living on the shoreline, but having a report with full strength of the federal, state, and local government saying it will get worse is going to put off prospective buyers. From the reports. Now, I picked the vulnerability assessment report, the first one, and excuse me, where it says there was a sea level rise projection generated under contract between the Nature Conservancy and Columbia University's Earth Institute, also known as the CCCR, Center for Climate Change Research, NASA Goddard Institute for Space Studies, etc. I searched that on a technical website. I came up with Assessing Coastal Vulnerability to Sea Level Rise in Southern New England. And it had the Nature Conservancy science director on that paper, the only name that was on it. Sea level rise, it says right in the paper, is not less than 1 meter, is not supported by the tool. I ask anybody here, does anybody care about sea level rise that's not supported by the tool? I could, that's not a factor. How much is going to be on the land? So anyway, the high level, the high number, is the 1 meter sea level rise plus the error factor of the data set that they use, Connecticut LIDAR, minus a conversion factor. And those are the numbers. And it comes out to 1.33 meters, 52 inches, which is the high number for the 2080s. It just happens. And tell us this is not the source of the 52 inches. There is a sea level rise for 2080s, 1 meter, because the tool, etc. The 67% confidence band of inundation over land is in the paper, comes out to minus 1 inch of sea level fall to 52 inches. So minus 1 inch did not translate to this report. Sea level rise 1 meter is relationship of the water to the land. It is range dependent on the error of the Connecticut LIDAR, not emissions of CO2. This is according to the Nature Conservancy paper. As somebody from the Nature Conservancy mentioned to me in an email, this isn't sea level rise. This is the relationship of, what they think the land is relative to 1 meter hypothetical sea level. So, was there more than one GISS TNC paper commission? If there is, we'd like to see it. So which 7 general circulation models were used at GCMs? They all have names. They have web pages. I'd like to see them. And I'll show you why in a second. 2 Connecticut LIDAR studies identified them. That was mentioned in the science report. accuracy of 6 inches, we found that. How is the 2080's 52 inches high scenario calculated from a 6-inch LiDAR study? And how were the near-term sea level rise figures calculated? None of that has been told to us. Okay. Regarding future storms, the Nature Conservancy, or the committee said they didn't make any scientific projections about about storms and them being worse and what have you. But from the risk and vulnerability report and anticipated increases in the frequency, whatever, and then coastal storms believed to be increasing, and then 3 more statements, and this is all in the first 3 pages of the risk and vulnerability report. And this current plan is very similar in the first 3 pages, almost the same thing. So, the IPCC AR5, Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, 5th Assessment Report, states that there is low confidence in prediction either way of North Atlantic tropical storms and short-term local storms. There may be no scientific projections made in the plan, but the point completely unjustified was certainly made over and over and over and over again. So, models do not work. They have their flaws. This is a spaghetti chart of all the models that exist. And that line at the bottom, that's reality. And interestingly enough...
Could you go back 1 second?
Oh,
Can I
sure.
ask you a question?
I think
Don't go back.
Okay, the same chart.
I'm assuming the red line is the average of all those
yes.
models.
Yes, it is.
And the line on the bottom is actually for measurements taken.
This is actual measurements, right.
Okay.
Now, I told you each of those have a name. I had a chance to look some of these up. These are actual names of all these models. They all have names, they all have websites, you can look them up and see exactly what they have. Most of them have what they call RCP 8.5 scenario. That's John Droz of North Carolina, who fought the sea level down there, said that it was wild exaggerations, basically. But in that scenario. At any rate, the interesting part is that the IPCC, if you can read it, increased confidence, likely, very likely, and extremely likely, the further away from the models that reality is, the more confident they are that these models are correct. That's right out of their 5th assessment report and all the other preceding 4. But Phil Jones of that supplies most of the head of the organization that supplies most of the information to the IPCC for their assessment reports, said that models don't work because of the way they handle clouds. Very important factor. Global warming caused by CO2. 1938, global warming is likely to prove beneficial to mankind. Royal Meteorological Society. 1947, warming Arctic climate. Going to inundate coastal cities. It didn't happen. Then 1975, the new ice age must now stand alongside nuclear war as a likely source of wholesale death and misery for mankind. That was their opinion then. It's exercising. 1990, Senator Timothy Worth said, we've got to ride the global warming issue. Even if the theory of global warming is wrong, we'll be doing the right thing in terms of economic policy and environmental policy. At least he's honest. Did I get to? Anyway, chart of sea level accelerating in 1930. That's before most of the carbon emissions. 25% of all carbon emissions have been since this point here. So, and the satellite data record continues pretty much the way it has been. In 2004, there was a little inflection point sea level rise actually decelerated slightly, and that goes through 2010. I don't have the satellite data since then, unfortunately. What does an expert say? Niels Axel Warner is one of the world's foremost experts in sea level rise. Axel Warner concludes the Australian government of a 1 meter sea level rise by 2100 are greatly exaggerated, finding instead that sea levels are rising around Australia and globally at a rate of 1.5 millimeters per year. This would imply a sea level change of only 5 inches by 2100. We're talking 2080s. Dr. Warner also finds no evidence of any acceleration in sea level rise around Australia or globally. This is just a picture of sunspots versus sea level rise. The lighter color is the sunspots, and that's, you'll see that they sometimes they're out of phase a little bit, but they basically follow each other. And this is the current solar cycle. This is the previous one, and the one before that. And you see they're headed down. The prognostication for the next solar cycle is 25, which is going to be in about 5 or 6 years, theoretically. They're saying it's going to peak out at around 7 sunspots per month, Wolf number. We're on the way down here about 50. This peaked out at 75. This peaked out at 120. This is about 180. So you can see there's a definite decrease, and that is more than likely going to lead to colder temperatures and probably falling sea levels, or at least slowing. So at the current rate, seas would rise maybe 6 inches, 5 inches by the 2080s. It might go slower or a bit faster. Time to tell. Daily inundation. For an exercise, subtract 36 inches from all of the values of the NAVD North American vertical datum, and you get the daily inundation chart. They're not different. They're the same. And when you have NAVD, you have to, when you get NAVD, you have to say what the current NAVD is and then look at the difference.
All right, so we're running out of time.
Yeah.
What would you, can you just come up with a summary?
I just got one more thing on page E5, Appendix E, collective learning. If you look at that system, you'll see that there's no way, it's a preordained outcome that they're looking at.
So what do you recommend? What is your vision here?
Right, yes. I'm recommending that we have some experts in the field of sea level rise look at some of the basic data on this report and come back to the commission, make recommendations for changes. I think we can. There's a lot of good things in this plan, but there's some definite things that need to be taken out.
Well, okay, so
I've changed.
So their point is well taken that we kind of need to do something soon.
Exactly.
So what type of things would you think we would want to take out?
Well, I mean, the whole thing of the daily inundation chart, I mean, I think everybody that I've showed this paper to, is agreed that this isn't even sea level rise, unless there is another report which I don't have. But nobody's presented any scientific evidence. There's no list of references in the document where all this information came from. We just have to take the word. It's the best science, and
right. So
it's a consensus.
what would you take out? Like what part of the plan would you change?
Well, I'd certainly lower those numbers.
But how would that affect the implementation of the plan? Like the plan is the plan. It doesn't have any immediate actions. It merely gives directions. What changes that you're suggesting, and I'm not disagreeing with what you're saying, but what changes to the plan would take place that we would not want to promote?
Well, I mean, I would take out the NAVD chart entirely. It serves no purpose, and it's basically scaremongering.
Right, but that's not an action in the report. In our plan, it calls for very little action in the beginning.
I understand. But having the basis of the plan being these excessive sea level rise rates, okay, beyond anything that's happening in the entire world, that is showing signs of actually decelerating instead of accelerating. There's no,
So
the basis of the plan is flawed.
So
I think.
what advantage would they be giving themselves by using this flawed data? Like, why would they do that?
It'll scare people.
But how would that benefit them?
Well, I've heard a couple of people say, I'm really afraid that my property is going to be inundated by sea level because, wow, we're going to have 7.3 feet of sea level.
How does that benefit them?
They're going to be able to buy the properties.
You're promoting the idea that because of this report, someone's
Not
going to look at
necessarily
their...
this group, but other groups have done that in other places.
Right, so one of the things that we would need to be fearful of is that this report would scare some property owners.
Prospective buyers would scare people into selling when they really had never thought about it, but they're concerned and the property values are going down. It's been stated very clearly that the value, the properties are selling for less than they were paid for,
yep,
which is not very common in the overall, along the shoreline, that is.
Right. Do we have other questions? Any final summation?
Like I said, there's some things that need to be, I think that need to be changed, that could beg to be changed. This thing with the collective being more important than the rights of the individual, I think that should be totally eliminated. I mean, there's a number of things in there. All the references to more frequent, more intense storms, there's no justification for that. The IPCC AR5 has stated that they don't see anything in there, and it's the report is inundated with that.
So the collective would have rights greater than the citizens, and what is the collective again?
Well, if you look at the Appendix E, okay, collective is everybody, okay, but they're everybody. If you look at Appendix E, they say, who's going to make the decision? Well, you got the experts over here, and then you got the officials over here. And if you look at it, there's 5 groups. 4 of them are going to say, yeah, let's do this. A small percentage would probably, would fight it, but it's a preordained technique, and it's well documented. Believe me, it's not uncommon.
Okay. We have lots of timers going on. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
All right, well, thank you. Appreciate it. Just giving me your time.
George.
Kevin has some concluding remarks he'd like to make.
Does anybody else in the audience need to speak before I conclude?
Well, can I just ask one question real quick while I'm thinking about it? What is this, like, is there going to be some board of people that are going to make decisions to purchase properties outside of the rights of citizens?
The group really recommends no sort of changes to what our current practices are. We have the land stewardship, or the Land Acquisition Commission, which reviews properties for land acquisition in the town of Guilford.
Have they ever bought property that someone didn't want to sell?
No, it's always been between 2 equal parties there. The only time I'm aware of that the town used eminent domain was actually to get an easement for a drainage issue at the high school. That's the only thing I recall of the town using any of these type of forces.
And nothing in this report would steer in that direction?
No, actually, we're proposing in this preamble that we have a specific statement that says nothing, that eminent domain is not recommended. Nothing changes in the way, in terms of the process that the town makes decisions about land acquisition or capital improvements or zoning matters or anything else. What this plan does is set up a framework, as we tried to explain, for proceeding to continue to evaluate the issues that we're dealing with and continue to update and make recommendations through the various decision-making bodies that might be relevant to the objectives of the plan. We've been mostly focusing on capital improvements so far, road improvements for access. That's what the town has been involved in for the last several years, providing access to neighborhoods that are compromised or where there are vulnerable issues associated with access. What this plan is trying to do is enhance and protect property values, not suppress property values so that the town or the Nature Conservancy or somebody else can go buy land.
Is there any scenario in the confines of this plan that the town would attempt to take properties that the property owner doesn't want?
Absolutely not. And all the protections that are built into private property rights embodied in our Constitution and in the state constitution and the local decision-making all stay the same. There's no change proposed in any of that.
The only big change this plan really does is it recommends that a body, and one of the bodies that's indicated in the plan is the Hazard Mitigation Commission kind of takes the charge of this plan and makes sure the recommendations of the plan are starting to be carried out. Some of the items in this plan are already outlined in this report, or already been outlined in the town's Hazard Mitigation Committee anyways. So it's almost passing it on to them who already has some of the similar duties.
And the interesting thing is that Kurt and I are on the Hazard Mitigation Committee for some reason. So we would have some input, wouldn't we?
Absolutely. Right. This plan recommends that the Board of Selectmen modify the ordinance that created the Hazard Mitigation Commission. Actually, the plan suggests two alternatives. Either the town create a new body to oversee the implementation of this plan, or designate the Hazard Mitigation Commission as the body that would oversee the implementation of the plan. As Chuck explained at one of our hearings, the ordinance that created the Hazard Mitigation Commission could be revised to give that responsibility to the Hazard Mitigation Commission. Again, the Hazard Mitigation Commission doesn't have the authority to spend money outside of the normal spending process of the town. The Hazard Mitigation Commission doesn't have the authority to adopt zoning regulations. The role of the Hazard Mitigation Commission in implementing the plan would be to create in one place a body that kind of prods those other agencies of the town that might have an interest in implementing activities in the plan, to kind of keep them moving forward in a positive direction along those lines. But none of the decision-making that's made by other commissions, Planning and Zoning, Board of Selectmen, Board of Finance, Park and Rec, whoever it might be, land acquisition, none of those things would be changed as a result of the plan. What the plan does is provide this guidance, provides this overall kind of systematic framework for looking at these issues, creates some opportunities, because we have a plan, hopefully, to compete more successfully with other towns in attracting funds to implement projects that the town decides it wants to implement through its normal decision-making process. Those are the things that the plan enables us to do.
And with any plan, it's reevaluated every 10 years. Hazard mitigation plan has to be evaluated every so many years. Plan of conservation has to be evaluated so many years. So if new data comes in and says sea level, it's not warming up as much, sea level is decreasing, that information will be placed in the future plans.
Absolutely. One of the things that I think Kevin explained once before, the USGS is actually implementing a monitoring facility in Guilford to monitor sea level rise over a period of time. Nobody's predicting or projecting, or certainly not hoping, that sea level rise occurs. All the best science says that it is, notwithstanding some people who say that it isn't. Everything that the conventional and state agencies and other agencies that we respond to seem to be suggesting it is. We would be remiss if we didn't take that into consideration. If it turns out that over a period of time it's not happening, we'll be all more than grateful, I'm sure. And we can adjust the proposals and the plan accordingly.
Great. Do we have one more comment to make? There's a young lady here.
In regard, Marcia Griffin, Westlake Avenue, away from the ocean, way away. In regards to the town taking property, I didn't go to every single one of these meetings, but I did go to at least a couple of them where there were charts put up, and they showed one scenario where there's beach grass, there's a house, another house, and I believe there might have been a third house on a town road. They showed that in the case of large storms and sea level rise, that first house would be gone, and in all likelihood, you would not be allowed to build there again. The second house then had issues because the first house was gone. You might get a revetment, but maybe not. They go for natural sort of bushes and shrubs and things. Fine. Over time, for whatever reason, that one no longer existed. They say somebody bought it, whatever, and then they tore it down. That left one house on the street. Well, okay, the town's not going to take your property, but they no longer serviced you with any of the wintertime facilities like plowing your snow. And they said it right on the chart, and people looked at it. The bottom thing was, you lose your property. I didn't write it. It was written by the people who were giving the explanation of what this would do for Guilford.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make the motion for us to discuss, I think.
I just have one, if nobody else.
Are we in a real public hearing still?
Yeah, he's going to make a statement.
So your file and all around my letter.
Sure you don't want me to read it, Kevin?
Be terrible for that.
April 15, 2015, the Government Planning and Zoning Commission from Kevin McGee around the planner, adoption of coastal resilience plan. The proposed Town of Guilford Community Resilience Coastal Plan has been a project that George Kroll and I have been working on since 2010 with the assistance of the Nature Conservancy, Yale University, Urban Ecology and Design Laboratory, MLN at Bureau. Over the past several years, we have held numerous meetings with the public, town staff to gather input on the plan. The efforts of the meeting resulted in the publication of 3 documents consisting of the Town of Guilford Community Coastal Resilience Plan, Risk and Vulnerability Assessment Report dated September 2012, the Town of Guilford Community Coastal Resilience Plan, Report of Options to Increase Coastal Resilience dated February 2013, and the Community Coastal Resilience Plan dated May 30, 2014. The Community Coastal Resilience Plan identifies the vulnerabilities that Guilford faces with the current storms and the potential effects of the sea level rise on the Guilford shoreline, and provides options the Town of Guilford and its residents can utilize in improving resiliency. Strategies are identified to assist property owners with the protection of their properties from the current flooding and from future sea level rise, and consists of elevating houses and utilities, elevating sanitary systems, and worst case scenarios, the utilization of composting toilets and holding tanks. The plan have identified vulnerabilities of flooding to our coastal roads, which cause problems to transportation and emergency access, with solutions that the town engineer and the Connecticut DEP should look into. In order to further protect the current and future property owners, the plan identifies changes that should be made to the building code, Town of Guilford ordinances, and zoning law code. The plan also looks at the need to protect natural resources along Guilford's shoreline, since it acts as a natural defense against storm surge and sea level rise. Chapter 8 of the plan provides implementation strategies along with funding sources like the town can apply for to assist with hazard mitigation and flood mitigation. Concerns were raised during the public hearing regarding the projected sea level elevations outlined in the report. It is important to note that the projections listed in the plan were from 2010, and recommendations in the plan is that the Town of Guilford pursue its own monitoring equipment, and the town work with the new Center for Coast to participate in monitoring efforts that are anticipated by the Connecticut DEP Office of Oil and Sound Program. It is important to note that the Town of Guilford is currently working with USGS to have a tide gate installed at the Guilford Marina, which will provide real-time data to the residents of Guilford. In addition, changes in the Connecticut General Statutes require that the Planning and Zoning Commission and Hazard Mitigation Commission consider sea level rise change scenarios published by the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration and Technical Report OAR CPO-1 Guilford Coastal Resilience Plan. The plan falls in the middle of those projections and identified in the technical report. Sea level rise projections listed in these reports provide a guide for the Town of Guilford in evaluating elevations for reconstructing roads, installing culverts, or making long-term planning decisions. Another concern raised regarding the plan is its effect on property values. John Nolan at the Patriot University Land Use Center indicated in a conference that I recently attended that property values have been impacted nationwide along the shoreline due to mortgage companies and insurance companies concerned with severe weather. Even with the coastal resiliency plan showing inundation from sea level rise, actually, even without the coastal resilience plan map showing inundation from sea level rise are posted online on the Nature Conservancy webpage as part of a larger project not connected with Guilford, the U.S. Climate Resilience Toolkit produced by NOAA, and the Connecticut DEP Coastal Hazard Mapping Tool. I recommend that the Commission approves the report with the two previous reports, the Guilford Community Coastal Resilience Plan Risk and Vulnerability Assessment Report dated September 12th, and the Town Guilford Community Coastal Resilience Plan Report options the increased coastal resilience dated February 2013 to be included as an appendix to this report.
Wow. That's great, Kev. Thank you. Anyone else want to, we have a customer. Step right up.
Joe Nugent, 423 Whitfield Street. First, a disclaimer, I'm not representing any town committee nor any other organization that I belong on that I serve on, nor am I representing any neighborhood association. I'm speaking as an individual. Lived here for 43 years, do a lot of walking. There's a lot of doubters as far as climate change. I've heard their testimony. Some people belong to Flat Earth Society. I know that. You know, whatever. I'm surprised the origin of species hasn't come up yet. I'm waiting, but perhaps it will come up. But I live on wetlands, and I've seen changes in 43 years. I've seen changes in fauna. I've seen changes in the wildlife in this wetlands. That's because it's wetter. The water is rising. This plan gives us an opportunity to plan ahead. I'm a sailor, I have a boat. I don't plan on drowning or ending up in the water. Guess what? I have a PFD. I also have reefs on my sails, so when the wind changes, I can do what I have to do to survive. This is what this plan is. It's a survival plan. I think it's time to stop talking and put some action into it. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Anyone else? George? Guidance? That's said. Reggie?
Move the public hearing be closed.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
It's closed.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to move that the Guilford Planning and Zoning, voted that the Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission approve an amendment to Plan of Conservation and Development 2002 by approving the Town of Guilford Community Coastal Resilience Plan, May 30, 2014. This plan is approved based upon a finding that it provides guidance to the town's land use and other decision makers in making decisions about protecting the town's citizens, resources, property, neighborhoods, and infrastructure from adverse impacts associated with coastal storms, sea level rise, and related phenomena. The approval of this plan is effective April 24th, 2015. One of the reasons I'm making this motion is because I have a 3.5-year-old, and I understand that a lot of us aren't going to see 2080. I don't expect that I will see 2080. And if I'm not going to see 2080, oh no, I won't think so. Go easy. Go easy. I went easy. I rolled that right back. The reality here is I have spent a lot of time in communist countries, and I think that a lot of the concerns here are not related to the actual substance of coastal resilience. Guilford is not concerned with the cause of sea level rise. Guilford is not concerned with the politics of the situation. We have a coastline. The water is rising. It has risen 3/4 of a foot in New London since 1938. I spend most of my time working on hurricanes. And the reality is that the 1938 hurricane was not nearly as devastating as it could have been today, as it could have been at high tide, as it could have been with all of the trees that have since grown back because The beautiful town of Guilford was farmland at the time. The reality is that we have a lot of vulnerabilities down there. Those vulnerabilities will continue to be a problem, and we have to face them. We can't imagine that they will go away by covering our eyes. And the idea that somehow we are affecting the market by acknowledging a problem that's real is like saying that police sirens cause crime. We need to do this sooner rather than later. Thank you.
I'll second it.
Wow. Well, that was nice, Walter. Thank you. Any other discussion?
I'd like to make a couple comments.
Please.
I won't be long. I'm going to vote for this plan. I'm going to vote for it because I do think there's a sea level rise problem. I think the models, my experience with models, did some of that a long time ago. I was very poor at it, that's why.
That's why you do what you do.
What I do, what I do. But I would just want to say that I think the thing that the reality is as Walter's saying, we know from instruments, physical instruments that are in Long Island Sound, that we've had some sea level rise. It may be, it equates to about 10.8 inches rise in 100 years, because I did the math. And so without a change in the environment or without some other changes, if that's been what's happened the last 100 years, it's likely to happen the next 100 years. So that would mean another 12, basically another foot of water. So there, in my mind, there's clearly a problem. Having said that, I'm also comfortable with the fact that this is like the plan of conservation development. It's like the other plans that we have. It's a roadmap. That's all it is. And we do have time here, because if you look, even if you accepted the models, we don't have a sharp, the real problem comes, I think, in around 2055, and the chart goes straight up in the air. So we have about 35 years, and it does us no harm to start planning now. It does us no harm. We may not do anything for a while, but we should start planning. And as a matter of fact, I really am excited about the fact that Guilford has already taken some action without even having a plan in place by raising the level or planning to raise the level of several roads along the shoreline. So that's a start. And I think I'm kind of sorry that the way the plan was written, it really frightened me. I mean, when you think about a 52-inch sea level rise, we're not just talking about the shoreline. You know, it's going to be way uptown if we had a 52-inch sea level rise. So, having said all that, I wish there was one piece that wasn't in here, and that was, they said that it's just a plan, but specifically in the plan, they are making the suggestion that we make everybody that lives in an A zone to build a house that's for a V zone. So that is a specific recommendation that's in the plan. And yet what was not in the plan was any question about what's the cost-benefit analysis. You know, is it really necessary? And when does it become necessary? Does it become necessary in 2016, or does it become necessary in 2035 as the sea level is rising? The final thing is you're absolutely right. To my way of thinking, if we don't have, if we have something that's measuring the sound, measuring the sea level rise, if it changes or it stops, we can stop. We may have to pick it up again at some point down the road, but we can stop and take a breath, because we're going to have 10 years or 50 years or 100 years where we don't have the rise anymore. So I'm going to vote for it.
Good. Frank? I got nothing for you. For sure?
I'll echo a lot of what Tom said. This is basically a roadmap and a plan, and without some of these things in effect, we've gotten right out ahead of the curve. for the right reasons. And that we've taken the two words eminent domain off the table, which makes it more palatable to some other people.
Right. Thank you. Bill?
I just think it's a great plan in terms of being perspective, in terms of our planning versus reactive after the fact.
Rich, I'll come back at it. And it's a fluid, it's always a work in progress. It can be amended at any time.
It's living and it'll change.
And as Kevin says, by 10 years out, it can have a new plan if data supports a different finding.
Any observations, Rich?
Well, I'm the new guy in town,
Well, but you still have
so
thoughts.
I won't keep you guys long. I think it's a great plan. I think it's not only should be effective now, it should have been effective years ago. I'm an environmental engineer, civil engineering degree, and I've been watching just people watch and don't do anything. I think George has done a beautiful job, and the proposal is great. And if I had a vote, which I can't, you told me tonight, I would vote for it.
There you go. Thank you. Josh?
George was spot on with everything that he had to say, and I think that this, forget about sea level rises, if you believe in it or if you don't believe in it, this is just a life jacket for us all, and it gives us an opportunity that we otherwise didn't have. I think it's very important for the town, and it's important for this committee to vote unanimously for it.
Okay. George?
Well, when I have the opportunity to vote, I'll probably vote in favor of it, simply because planning ahead is the only way to go. You can't accomplish life without some goals, and you gotta put a roadmap that you can follow. Maybe you're gonna deviate from it as you go along in life, but you have a goal ahead of you of where you're going. I think it's a good idea, and would support it 100%.
Wonderful. Thank you. You know, I wish I could think of some wonderful words, but you know, just to acknowledge how much time our staff has put in on this, you can't even measure it. So thank you for all the work that all of you did. I mean, thank you for everybody in town. Thank you. You know, everybody at this table comes from different backgrounds, different sides of the aisle, different political philosophies. You know, we all live in different areas of town. But at the end of the day, we all come together with the same thought, that we need to have a plan in place to deal with this. And the plan will be flexible. And if things don't materialize, then they don't materialize, and we don't do certain things. And if they do get worse, we'll make the adjustments. So I too support it for all the right reasons, just like everybody else. So, all those in favor? It's unanimous. Congratulations. So thank you all. Thank you all very much. Yay!
I can clap, right?
Lots of clap. All right. Onward and upward. Lisa, I'm sorry, you didn't want to say anything? Okay. These bills.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to move to pay the bills to Shore Publishing for $181.70 and WB Mason for $45.82, even though I know that will ruin my political career forever.
Second.
Sir.
Why are we buying
You had
candy
one?
jars?
I'd also like to...
You had one?
Every single week.
I missed
Call
something.
Joe.
Anybody second this? Did you second it? Frank seconded it, and I'm going to vote in favor of it.
I didn't call it yet.
Oh, okay.
Every 2 weeks, I see numbers here that are going up
He's
and up
gonna
and up
do a
and up.
thing.
It's like the title rise. It's our bill rise. It's
like the
crazy
title
to
rise.
plan.
To deal with this.
Right, we need a plan. All those in favor to pay the bills?
Aye.
Aye. I actually, okay, so we have approval of minutes. I actually read the minutes, and they do appear accurate. Has anyone else?
Walter noticed something, and I didn't have an opportunity.
There's a problem. There are two problems. I believe that Richard Wallace may have voted for Josh Hirschman for chairman, and therefore the motion to make Josh Hirschman chairman failed 6-4 rather than 7-3. And also, I believe there was one instance where Ray Bauer and Josh Hirschman were reversed.
Not that any of this really matters.
None of it matters. But where they had Ray in Josh's spot and Josh in Ray's spot.
Duly noted.
Did you see that, Reg?
Which vote are you talking about? Because I reviewed each page in the minutes.
I don't have them in front of me.
You voted for Josh.
Will you?
Yeah, I can show you.
So the vote where Josh was
The vote for Josh was 6-4.
For the chairman, right?
Against in favor.
Should have been 7-3.
No, it was listed as 7-3, and I believe it was 6 against and 4 in favor.
Okay.
And there's Bauer.
Get a little closer.
Come on.
Come on. Bauer, Hirschman.
He's begging like a dog. Come on, Paul, will you?
It was a close now.
It was
close. It was closer than it looked.
He's done everything but sit up and give you the paw. Come on.
5-5 for Tom Cost. I didn't find anything else, so does that make you feel better?
She actually listened to the, watched the video.
I believe
get it.
Ray
Yeah,
Bauer
camera's off.
voted in favor of Tom Cost.
Yes.
You know what? I bet that
Josh
was-
Hirschman voted against him, as
Sorry, Tom.
opposed to Josh Hirschman voting in favor of Tom Cost.
You would have won that.
And Ray Bauer voting.
I'm going to kick your ass.
I bet that was on the piano.
Is that camera off? Be careful.
Josh's vote is actually worth 1.1 regular.
Okay, so Bauer was in favor and Hirschman was opposed.
I mean, you could leave it that way.
Is that how you vote?
Now he's okay.
No, I voted for, no, I'm just saying, it doesn't matter either
Yeah,
way.
he didn't vote for Cost.
I didn't vote for Tom.
So it's 10:30, and these are not...
Yeah, no.
Move to approve with adjustments.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Move to adjourn.
Oh, I can't.
Second.
Chairman, make a motion to adjourn.
We have a motion to adjourn. Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Good night, everybody.